Everybody, I will call to order the June 11th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Mr. Penta is not making it tonight. I will appoint the person with the grayest hair in the room to vote for Mr. Penta. That would be Mr. D.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Not a problem. All right.
So, Mr. Chair, we got 8 voting members, because, actually 9 voting members here, because we got all of our ex officios.
It's actually white, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
no,
2
we're
there,
good. They're both
Gianni, so,
approval of minutes. Do we want to wait on the June 4th until next month?
I think we do.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
So we'll hold off on the approval minutes. Kelly, it does not look like we have any regional impact determinations, correct?
Correct.
All right, and discussions with town staff.
I've got one this evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Mr. Trotter.
Staff was approached by
Okay.
Camco Supply Corporation. They're located at 19 Independence Drive, map 16, lot 81. That particular site was approved back in July of 2003. Kelly, actually, the overall GIS, please. The improvements at that time consisted of paved access as well as paved parking area. What was being proposed was 150 foot by 200 foot office building warehouse with a mezzanine, and also a 125 by 150 foot warehouse. There was drainage improvements involved, and then on that particular plan back in '03, they had intentions of building a future warehouse addition that was to be basically located to the southwest of the existing warehouse. So just to recap, oops. This is the existing building, office warehouse building. It's been previously approved in '03. This was the warehouse. It was approved also in '03. Today, what they're in, all the paved access, parking and whatnot around the site. Today, what they're asking, what they're coming in for, if you could just bring the Moran plan up, please. Here in 2025, the improvements, they fall into the minor site plan criteria within the town. And as you can see from this, what they're basically proposing is a 60-foot by 120-foot warehouse to the southwest of the existing warehouse. So this rectangle that you see here is the proposed new building on the site. This is the existing warehouse. Can you just trying to get your orientation? What they're doing is, again, they'll be cutting the pavement, removing the pavement, removing gravels to construct a foundation and a metal building basically there. Staff's belief is that this could be, although it falls under a minor site plan, staff feels we can handle this administratively and would recommend that we proceed that way. Just want to get board's concurrence and.
Can you show me where it's going to be on the picture?
Yep. Back to the GIS, Kelly. So basically, Lynn, where it's going to be located is out in this area here.
Well, so my only comment,
Yep,
I hate to even bring this up, but you can see where they are, the snow storage here?
yep.
So they put the snow back there and they push it down the hill and it knocks down the fence to their back property, and then all the trash blows off down into the rail trail?
Gotcha. They will be made aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
To-
otherwise, I'm good with them doing that.
One thing that they won't be able to do, Lynn, is to put as much snow there either.
Yep.
Because they're gonna have an obstacle, they'll have the building will be in their way here.
Yeah, exactly, but they push their snow there and just pushes the fence over, and then the trash just blows out.
Staff will make them aware of it,
Okay.
Where is the rail trail?
right there.
It's right here.
Okay, this was long before the rail trail was put in, then, right?
Yes, it was.
To reconstruct the fence?
Yeah, the fence is knocked down, but
So they still have sufficient parking,
Yes, they will.
any landscaping that they're gonna be doing?
Nothing new. Again, it's being constructed within a sea of pavement today. So again, they're not, the site plan itself met the landscaping requirements at the time,
At
back
the
in
time.
'03.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would the site plan amendment warrant repair to that fence?
Well, it would be brought to the attention of the
Fantastic.
applicant,
That's all
so
I
in
ask,
my
yeah.
opinion,
Fantastic.
that'll be a requirement.
Do you need a motion or just consensus?
I think a consensus and
Anybody have a problem with it being handled administratively?
No, I think it'd be.
Fantastic.
thank you.
Sounds good.
That's all I had.
I think right now, well, they just stack stuff there anyways. So
Yeah, it's like
not,
pallets
It's not
and-
really
yeah.
nice to
Yep.
walk by anyways.
Anything else?
I have one item for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So another similar request, just looking for the board's feedback as to whether you would support an administrative review of this request. So this is a tenant within the 30 Main Street property in Woodmont Commons. The tenant is Ivy Brook Academy. They're proposing some minor site modifications, including the removal of an existing dumpster pad and enclosure, some landscape restoration, and the installation of a fence around a proposed outdoor learning area, so where kids would gather outside. No parking spaces would be removed. The overall impervious surface would decrease slightly. And the academy would operate weekdays, half-day preschool sessions with approximately 110 students and 10 staff members on site during each session. The primary questions that I wanted to, or that we wanted to clear with the board were related to their operating hours and particularly drop-off and pickup. So their operating hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then their session times are 8:15 to 12:15 and 12:30 to 4:30. So initially, they were proposing to have essentially a queuing occur in front of their location within travel lanes, which we said that's not a good idea. So they've come back and they're going to be utilizing the existing parking area here to have parents park and then walk across to the unit, to the daycare center, to the preschool, I should say. So in terms of queuing within Main Street, that's a non-issue at this point. There should be no drop-off and pickups occurring. They should all be parking in the designated parking lot, and then walking across during those drop-off and pickup times. The other item looking for the board's feedback on is, like I mentioned, removing the dumpster. So we have specific screening requirements for dumpsters. So I just want to make sure that the board is okay with staff reviewing the screening aspects. So they're still proposing to construct a metal decorative fence around the dumpster, so it would still be enclosed as we require. But typically, the board would review that as part of the regulations. But given the minor changes to this, I think it's appropriate to look at it from an administrative review standpoint.
Where would the dumpster be going?
This is the pad right here?
Correct.
So it's staying on the pad.
Correct.
They're building around it. They're removing
Yep.
the landscape screening, fencing around the dumpster area to create like a play area.
Exactly,
And where's the storefront? Storefront, if you will, but front of the.
To the right.
to the right. There's a
Okay.
sidewalk.
Okay. All right, so it's not like it's all the way around the other side on Main Street or anything.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody have anything? Any questions?
I got 27, but I'm not gonna ask them.
Perfect.
Same to other business.
Gonna move on.
Yeah, everybody's all right with it?
Yes.
Kelly, you should be good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have an appointment of representative to Southern New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission. Ms. Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, this is your annual reappointment to the RPC. We have Patrick Cheatham from the Police Department, who has requested to be on again. So just looking for the board's decision on that.
Fantastic. Could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that the planning board recommend to the town council appointing Patrick Cheatham as a alternate to the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Second from Mr. Wiles. All in favor, starting with Ann, please.
Ann Champa, aye.
Giovanni Barani, aye. Tony?
Tony D, aye.
Lynn Wiles, aye.
Arthur Rugg, aye.
Jason Eitzai.
Sean Faber, abstain.
John Cruz, abstain.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you for your continued service, Mr. Cheatham. All right. Getting right into it here. Old business. We have a public hearing on an application for formal review of a site plan to construct 2 commercial buildings totaling 3,200 square feet and 7,500 square feet, along with associated site improvements. 59 Rockingham Road, map 13, lot 60-3, zone C2. Rockingham Road Holdings LLC is the owner. Freestone Holdings LLC. And Adnan, I'm not going to try and pronounce that, sir. Applicant. Continued for May 7th, 2025. Gentlemen, good evening.
Mr. Chair, just procedurally, you accepted this as complete back on May 7th?
Yep.
So you're all set to proceed.
Fantastic. All right. Gentlemen, let's pick up where we left off. I'll let you start.
Sure. Let me start. I think last time you kind of jumped in and I didn't give a background introduction about us, our business. So
Sure.
my name is Adnan Suljevic. I'm here with my engineer, Earl Sanford, and my brother, Nadim Suljevic. We, 20 years ago, decided to get into business. We started a small construction company, Freestone, specializing in stucco and stone facing, doing small residential projects and commercial projects. Over the years, like, we worked hard and you know, with integrity, hard work, we've built that business year after year. There's a saying that overnight successes take on average 15 years. That was true for us. So about 5 years ago, around that 15-year mark, we had gotten a strong customer base, a good portfolio of finished work behind us. We were done things like the Acura and Mini dealerships down in Peabody, the iconic Cliff House Hotel in Maine. We completely redid the exterior of the old building and did all new exterior on the new building. So with that portfolio, we started getting more and more clients, and we started looking for more space. We were still operating out of a small commercial condo in Nashua that we've outgrown. Most of our operations out in the field. And when we were looking for places, we found this lot in Londonderry. We just talked about Chemco. That's one of our biggest suppliers. They're just down the road from this lot. Beacon Supply is also another supplier. And my brother lives like 2 miles down the road in Londonderry. He just goes under the highway on Stonehenge Drive, I think. So we really like the place. The issue was that RC Enterprises is the current, the existing building. They owned a 10-acre lot, and they said, we're selling 7 acres, but you got to subdivide it. And we're like, all right, we just got to draw 2 lines and get a site plan. How hard can that be? So
how's those 2 lines
4
going?
years later, between the subdivision and the site plan, I think this is our 3rd planning board meeting, and I think the 10th meeting in this chamber. So through, we definitely learned the hard way that it's not as easy, and that Londonderry is stricter, that like there's a state standard and then there's a Londonderry standard. We've gone through many iterations, like 2 or 3 with the planning department and engineering. We made some major changes to our original plan. Originally, we had a loading dock. We decided like we don't get many large truck deliveries, so we got rid of that, and that was close to the lot. On the other side is zone commercial, but there's a residence there. So we got some feedback from the planning department that even though it's zone commercial, it is a house. So we've got in contact with that with our neighbor there. Went with them over our plan. They had some concern about lighting, so we made sure that all our lighting is downlight, that it's not shining towards their house. We pulled in the parking lot and all the loading lot that was close to their lot away and increased the woodland buffer there. And we are improving the drainage. The lot slopes out towards their lot, and water flows over their land. So we now have some detention basins, and we're reducing the flow to their property. For the most part, we're trying to keep as many things intact. There's quite a bit of ledge and woods. There's a very wide wooded area between Rockingham Road and us. We're keeping that, and with the elevation, the site is very private. We're not a retail location. Basically, our office is, we have our estimator and office manager. They are part-time bookkeeper that comes in. And we have some material deliveries that will get there, but no customers come to our buildings. Our original plan was just to do one building, and then down the road, as we expect the business to expand, to add the second building. But once we saw how large of a process it was to just get a building approved, we said it makes more sense to just go and plan out the two buildings now, with the idea that we will build just the first building as phase one, and then the second building we would build down the road as if the business keeps growing and the economy is doing well, we would build the second building down the road. So that's not being built right away. So that's where we are. I think we've resolved most of the issues with the planning department and with the engineering. There's still a few outstanding issues that we're working through with them. And as far as the last meeting, there were some issues about the fire truck turning radius, and we had a meeting with Brian Johnson from the fire department and went through his concerns. So I think he will be here to speak about that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Before we get into the board here, Mr. Trottier, do you have anything?
Nothing this evening.
All right. Ms.
I think the
Karen.
idea is to try and resolve the issue regarding
Yep.
fire truck safety.
Absolutely.
Maneuverability.
Ms. Karen.
Just a reminder, procedurally, you have a waiver, and then, of course, the application itself. So,
Thank you. All right. So, if you want to talk us through a little bit of your, tell us what's changed on your turning radius or your truck analysis. Walk us through it a little bit. I see you've marked it up a little bit here. Tell us what you got.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, my name is Earl Sanford of Sanford Surveying and Engineering. So we did take a closer look at the truck. We had originally started with tractor-trailer movements through the site, which had greater radiuses than the fire truck. I did look at the plan we had last time, and I had a longer wheelbase entered in. So I've gotten it to what's shown there on the plan. And I have all the radiuses now that are just exactly as per the publication by the on the website for truck turning. So basically, it's coming in is kind of green. You're coming in off Rockingham Road. The critical movements are a right turn in, and with the shorter wheelbase that once I entered it, I was able to. It actually fits very well coming in. Then when you get to Building A, the green, you can turn in go straight into where the carport is, and you can back out with a 2-point turn, or you could even, I guess it's maneuverable, is what I'm saying. If you want to be able to just back out and go down the driveway, the basic 10-foot overhang would go over the curb, and we could make sure that that works. Although there's plenty of room to back partway, then go into the front parking lot, and then back out and go. And the third option is you go by, you back out the way you came, you go up to the upper parking lot, and there's 2 options for how to turn around in that parking lot. So you've got the one in the upper right, coming in to the empty slot next to a parking slot, backing and going, and we've made sure we didn't impose on any of the loading dock, or not loading dock, but the service delivery areas.
Loading zones.
Yeah. So you have, I guess, 2 options for making, and that's just in, one back up, and out you go. So that's our proposal, that this should be workable, and I'd be glad to hear any comments.
Sure. Mr. Johnson, can I have you come up, sir? Thank you. And then Brian, if you want to sit right over there, just there's a microphone there, so it might help you out a little bit. All right, Brian. I've got a few questions. Obviously, this came to the board. I brought up concern of access for a fire truck. This, to me, seems to be a difficult lot to work with. It's a tight lot. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely.
My concerns here are, what does this look like in reality? What's this look like in real life when the building is occupied by employees, when there is a truck at this loading bay here? Is there, Kelly or John, is there any way you can show us what, call it 70 feet, so a truck and a trailer is about 70 feet. Is there any way you can mark out on that plan roughly what 70 feet looks like on this back lot if they're pulled up to the loading dock? My concern, Brian, is that there's nowhere for you to go and no way to get out in the event that there is an emergency and they do have a delivery, or they do have a truck there and they do have employees here. To me, it seems like we're going to run into a bit of an issue trying to get out of this, possibly even into it if, building B. Again, I'd be curious to see where kind of 70 feet comes out to on this, but what access to building B looks like if there's a tractor trailer parked there.
So I can't actually measure, there's no scale on the plan, but just as a point of reference, this is 60 feet,
Yep,
this length.
yep.
So,
Correct, Earl?
And the trucks are to scale,
okay.
the 41 feet long
Yeah,
truck.
that's fair, but I think what is still missing is a tractor trailer pulled up to your bay and what that looks like. How can we need to be able to illustrate that the fire department can get in and out of here in a situation where you're occupied, the 3.09A.1, there is safe and adequate vehicular traffic and pedestrian circulation. I still feel as though there has not been enough shown to us to say that this is safe vehicular traffic. Brian, I don't know if you can talk to that a bit, what your feeling is, what your opinion is, if there's a 70-foot tractor trailer here, what's that look like trying to get truck 1 up a hill? More importantly, there's a fire in Building B, and there's a 70-foot tractor trailer in there, and the guy that's supposed to be driving it is stuck in Building B because he's one of the occupants trapped in a fire, and the fire department can't even get to the building. That's my concern.
No, and it's a valid concern, and I'm glad we have the planning board to look at these types of things, because unfortunately, the fire code is the bare minimum. So what we can require is they give us access. But the fire code doesn't look at things like you're bringing up, that is there an 18-wheeler at the front of that building? Are they storing other materials in front of that building? You know, you look at some of the turning in any of these diagrams that you've seen over the years, you know, that is very close to a parking space. You have a vehicle hanging out of a parking space, it affects our pulling in and
Access.
backing out.
Yep.
So I definitely understand your concern of, you know, yeah, I think the biggest thing is if they're gonna have 18-wheelers in there, what's our access with that on the site?
Correct, and that's my concern. And Adnan, I know you brought up that, you know, you have very few deliveries. You know, it's a once in a blue moon thing that you have deliveries come. My response at the time was, well, you may have very few deliveries. You could build this building and decide to sell it tomorrow, and then the guy that buys it has 10 deliveries a day. So we have to look at this as in its entirety. Is there something we can do with this lot? I know you have a difficult lot. What can we do to this lot to get circulation for a fire truck? You know, to me, it just, I feel as though it's not there, and I don't like saying that, but I'm genuinely concerned about it, you know? 3-4 point turns, whatever, it's one thing. You can demonstrate that it can happen, albeit difficult. When you look at the in the top right corner there, you look at the blue turning radius, you show that it clearly goes off of the proposed edge of pavement. I don't know what the edge of
There's a significant overhang on those trucks.
I understand that, but I don't know what that looks like, because to me, when I'm looking at that, I see your wheels turned, and it looks like your dots are right in line with the wheel. So I look at that, and I'm, you know, what's there? Is it a granite curb? Is it a sloped curb? Is it an asphalt curb? Clearly, there's a grade change there. You know, I would think from one building to the others is got, I would assume that's a hill right off the rip. As soon as you're getting off pavement, you're headed downhill, correct? So, you know, my question is, what can be done to this to improve the circulation for a fire truck? Because like I said, as I see it right now, 3.09, vehicle circulation, parking, and loading standards. A, parking lot traffic circulation. 1, there is a safe and adequate vehicular traffic and pedestrian circulation. I don't think I see it. I want to see it. I want to find a way to see it. But right now, I don't see it. Right now, I see, and again, maybe we need a little bit more detail here, but I'd like to know what a 60 to 70 foot truck and trailer parked into that building looks like, and is the fire department going to be able to get up to Building B if it's on fire? Right now, I don't know that it is, and that's an issue. That's a real issue.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming, like I said, I haven't seen where the 18-wheeler is gonna be, but with that tight area that they have, I'm assuming our engine or ladder is gonna be stopping at the top of that hill where you see the orange arrow.
Where the orange meets the green there?
Yes.
Yep.
Because I don't think we're gonna be able to get past an 18-wheeler. So that's where our access will stop at that point.
And that's my exact concern. You know, what is, I understand that you have, you know, it's a ladder truck, it's got some sort of reach and extension to it, but, you know, if you're telling me, and again, I do feel as though you guys got to
Can I
show.
bring up a point?
Yeah, give me a minute.
We're about 28 foot wide.
Give me 1 second. Give me a
Okay.
minute. I feel as though there needs to be more detail on this to show it, because if I'm hearing the fire chief say he can't get up to the top of that building, that's a life safety concern. It really is. So to me is I want to figure out what we have to do to address that, to make sure that you have a property that is going to be safe to the residents, the applicant, anybody who's going to access this property. Right now, I don't think I see it. So my question is, how do we demonstrate it, or what do we have to do to this site plan to give adequate access to the fire department to make sure that, God forbid, building B ever catches on fire, they can get to it.
So my 2 points would be, if you look at this configuration in the upper right, there's plenty of room for a tractor-trailer to be temporarily over to the left. And again, it's a 1 in 6 month thing. Number two, if it's really a concern, it is a 28, I believe, 28-foot wide driveway. And I think there would be plenty of room for it to park right along the edge in that little straight section, and the fire truck could get right by it too. So, and they're not loading directly, I think you're using forklifts or,
It's not a loading dock, so it's a
It's-
forklift unload.
so we could take, precautions that would say, okay, and I think they're off hours too, aren't they, or no?
Well, we can't. He
can't-
made a point that
Again,
this
to-
can sell in
yeah.
the future.
You
and-
could sell it tomorrow and it goes to somebody who takes 15 deliveries a day and there's 15 tractor trailers here trying to get in and out. I have to look at it as the site plan, not the applicant. I understand and respect the fact that you really aren't gonna have much deliveries. I get that. But there's nothing to say that he doesn't turn it around and sell it. He's well within his right to do it. And I don't know that, that we meet the very first criteria for traffic flow, and I want to find a solution. I don't know what it is, and to your point, you think that there's adequate space to put a 70-foot tractor trailer there. You think. I think that we need to see it. I think we need to see it on paper and see what that looks like. Is there a way to get access around this building? Is there a way to move the building, what is that? To more towards the top right. I can't think of, that's gotta be southwest maybe. Can we move it this way and get another 20 feet of pavement in here, so that way you have plenty of room? That's what I'm looking for, because right now I don't see it. And I, as one board member, certainly feel as though right now there is not safe and adequate vehicular traffic, or at least it certainly hasn't been illustrated yet. I want to see you be able to develop your lot. I want to see you be able to continue to support a phenomenal business, but we need to see that it's safe. And right now, to me, it's not.
Can I add a point?
Sure.
I think it would be beneficial just for the viewers and the public and for the record that we hear from Division Chief Johnson about how he reviewed this,
Sure.
how his comments came to be. Obviously, we're talking about an NFPA standard versus a site plan regulation, but I just think that would provide some additional context as to how this is looked at.
Yeah,
And I think it's
absolutely.
important that that's
Absolutely.
articulated into the record.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, as I stated under an NFPA, the codes are the bare minimum. Unfortunately, they don't give us a perfect world. It requires that we can, if there's a section that is over 150 feet, they have to give us some sort of turnaround. So even if, what I was kind of looking at, if there is an 18-wheeler at the top, we're probably, without knowing where that 18-wheeler is going to be, our apparatus is going to stop at the top of the hill. At that point, we could back down into the parking lot for Building 1, Building A, back into that, turn and go out, or same thing, back into the north lot and turn around and come out. So that did meet NFPA requirements. But as I stated, it doesn't give us perfect access to Building B. If there's an 18-wheeler there, by not knowing where they're gonna have that 18-wheeler when it's unloaded. But code-wise, it does meet the code, because it doesn't mean you have to be able to get to the top and turn around. It means you may have to back up 150 feet to get to a turnaround. So it does meet that, and where it would come into, they have to provide us access. If it's a sprinkled building, or non-sprinkled, we have to have access within, sprinkled building is 400 feet, non-sprinkled is 150 feet. So if our engine gets to the top of that hill, we have to be able to get around that building 150 feet each way and meet in the middle. If it's sprinkled, we have 400 feet distance. So if it's a non-sprinkled building and our engine is stopped at the top of that hill, I don't think we're gonna be able to get a hose line 150 feet around the back of that building. So that's another thing, I mean, unfortunately, you see what I see with, not knowing the building construction and everything else. If it's gonna be a, sprinkled building, they have a lot more leeway, with the code.
So just to clarify, is this a sprinkled building?
Per our discussion, this is a metal building, not wood framed, and it's under 10,000 square feet. It did not have to be sprinkled, and we weren't planning on it to be sprinkled. I'll bring up that our original plan with the loading dock had the pavement extending 70 feet all the way to the end of the building. That area is very level.
You're saying pavement going this way?
Yep, and 70 feet out with the truck was all the way at the end of the building. We pulled that in because of the residents on the other side and to provide more of a woodland buffer. So there is some room to, there is room to add more pavement. We obviously wanted to limit how much that is. So that is one option that we can look at, and we would just have to update our drainage calculations accordingly.
Would it make sense to be able to pull into the north lot for all tractor-trailer deliveries?
I'm not sure I'm following you. When you say pull into the north lot for all tractor-trailer deliveries.
Right, it would have we'd have to adjust it a little, but you could pull in where you're not in any way restricting access to any building.
So I think, Earl, what you're saying, that if the tractor trailer was here, I think if the tractor trailer was there, it wouldn't be impeding any of the.
No, I'm saying the north lot,
Here.
and use is skid steer, whatever you,
Oh, that would be, I'm with you.
yeah.
But
Take them out of this
But just
completely.
going, now I follow, but I'm asking you the question though, Earl.
Right,
If
there's,
you were to eliminate these two loading docks, and the trailer was here, the tractor trailer was here, it would appear to me that it's not gonna impede the,
correct,
you know what I mean?
correct.
So can
Well, it
you,
all depends, if that's coming 70 feet out, it's gonna be where the apparatus is, if it's straight. Like I said, I don't know the configuration, whether it's gonna be angled straight, across the front of the building,
what's that, Brian, though?
the 18-wheeler.
Well, again, if he's gonna back up to this is the loading dock right here, so if he's gonna back up, he's gonna be 70 feet out here, follow me? This is 60 feet here, so kinda envision. you know,
But that's
it's
what
gonna
I'm
come to
getting
here.
at. We don't have anything that details what 70 feet looks like. Not that, I mean, we haven't even talked about the loading dock that's on the other side. To be honest with you, I don't even know that a tractor trailer could get into it, which supports the fact of how difficult this lot is, how tight this lot is. I think that back lot needs to be expanded. I can see and understand that, yeah, you know what, it does meet the NFPA standard according to this. But does it meet the, again, to me, I go back to number one. There is safe and adequate vehicular traffic and pedestrian circulation. I don't think that's been proven to. I don't think it's been demonstrated to the board. I think that, this plan needs to show what it looks like. One, having a tractor trailer actually at the loading dock. And just personally, I think the building needs, to me, it looks like the building's gotta go 20 feet in another direction to make this lot that it can be navigated,
Mr. Chair, might it be helpful for the applicant to hear other people's opinion from the board?
Oh, sure, absolutely, that's, the board's always welcome to chime up. If anybody has an opinion, if anybody has any thought on what I've said here, and I'd like to know if the board feels as though, right now, does this meet number one?
So I do have a question.
Sure.
So for sake of debate, it does meet the national fire standards.
Yes.
And that's your criteria for approving it from the fire department, approving the plan from the fire
Correct.
department. So, to my recollection, and my mind is starting to fade as I get older, but I don't think we've ever looked at any other plan to the degree that we're looking at this one.
I agree.
We've never, I don't ever recall seeing a discussion, or having a discussion on a semi-trailer or a semi-truck being in a parking spot when we've had a discussion on fire access to a building. So I don't know why we're doing that here. I get that this is a difficult plan, but it just feels to me like we're applying a different standard to this plan.
I don't think I'm trying to apply a different standard. I mean, 90% of buildings that come to us in parking lots that involve tractor-trailer access have got 100 yards of pavement. You know, this is not that. This is not your standard commercial building. I don't think we've ever seen something as tight as this. I'm not trying to apply a different standard. I'm trying to make sure that we do our due diligence and that if the board says yes to this, they're comfortable with how it looks. Yeah.
I agree with Lynn. We have a standard that Brian has to review and say yes or no to. It meets the standard. I don't think it's fair for us to apply a condition to these guys based on the potential that someday it may change and who knows what's going to happen. I think that that's an unfair standard to ask these guys to meet. To me, if it meets the standard, and I agree, it's not, the standard may not be real world, but we can't hold them to a different standard that we would hold somebody else simply because this has a potential, maybe down the road, who knows when, to come into play. I think we're holding, like Lynn said, I think we're holding them to a different standard than we hold other people.
When you say maybe down the road, you're talking with a
I'm
different...
I'm talking about, like you had said.
Yep.
They sell the business,
Yep.
somebody puts and somebody's getting 15 deliveries a
Yep.
day, right?
Yep.
That is a potential, but I don't think it's fair for us to hold them to a standard that somebody in the future may use the project to.
So my question for the board would be, and it's up to, everybody has their own opinion. In the board's opinion, with what we've discussed, what Mr. Johnson has said about, well, then we'd have to stop at the, in the middle of the hill here where the orange is, that there is a concern about a tractor trailer. Does this meet site plan regulation number 1? Does the board feel as though there is a safe and adequate vehicular traffic and circulation? Would have to ask the question. Mr. D.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, to the applicant, please, you had said you're going to build one building and then hope to build the second one. Is B the second one, or is the B the first one?
B is the second
B
building.
is the second one, okay. So, you'll learn when you keep coming back and forth here a few times that when I hesitate like that, it's because I'm trying to be nice, and it's really hard for me. I was hoping that when we made the comments about the fire truck, that you all would come back with something that was professional. What I'm seeing here is a Crayola crayon drawing, hand-drawn, and I at first I thought it was a joke when I first saw it early this afternoon, and I'm disappointed in that. Doesn't require an answer or a comment. It's just something that I needed to say. That said, I think that as a board, we are also empowered to protect the assets of the town, the physical assets and the human assets. We're going to take $1 million pieces of apparatus onto this site. But more importantly, there's human beings in there. And it's one of the most important things that we do as a land use board is to make sure that we're protecting that. We also have to protect neighbor against neighbor. That's a whole other topic. That's 12 meetings long. But we need to protect the assets of the town, and we have to make sure that we're doing that. The NFPA standards are a thumbnail minimum I agree, we may be a little bit overboard on this site. But to me, I see a few corrections that could be made easily for your second building. One would be remove the hammerhead and connect the dots. So if I can stand up, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
I'm standing now. So if you connected this hammerhead down to here and added all that more, we used to call it macadam in my day, asphalt, that widens this whole thing out and provides both safety and a place for truck turnarounds. In addition, and this is, we don't have any elevations here, so I have no idea what's here. The elevations are on the other side. But if this looked like this and connected here, and it looks like you got some kind of a riprap wall or something here, so it's gotta be pretty steep. But if this was like this, that corrects a whole other set of problems. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Johnson a question, if that's okay, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
So Brian, it seems to me that at some point, we were all about the fire department's got to get all the way around the building. Was that for certain sizes or sprinklered or non-sprinkled? What? Seems like we went through that exercise a lot with the school department and being able to get the trucks all the way around the building to put fires out. Am I making that up?
No, well, it comes into, as I was saying, we need to be able, the code requires us to be able to get a hose line around the building. So depending on the size of the building,
Got it.
you know, if we park in the front of the building and it's a sprinkled building, we need to be able to get 400 feet. So when we have a 1 million square foot warehouse, having parking in the front, we can't get all the way around the building with a 400-foot hose.
Got it.
Non-sprinkled buildings, it's 150 feet. And a lot of these businesses, as the chairman brought up, we've kind of been spoiled here in Londonderry because we've got these large buildings that have an abundance of pavement because they have bay doors all the way around them. They want the access around the buildings. It makes it easier for them to do their jobs, which in turn makes it easier for us to do our job.
Sure.
So we haven't had this concern as much because they come to us with something where they want a lot of pavement around the building because they want to be able to get trucks around their building and have bay doors on both sides.
Sure.
As far as some of the other buildings, the access, like I said, came into play when we need to be able to get hose lines around, and they found it easier just to connect the roadways on each end and make access all the way around.
And
Exactly
in this-
like
and
some
in
of the
this case-
schools, it's,
yeah, sorry.
It's not a wide road around, but it gives us access so we can get that 400-foot hose laid.
So in this case, it's a 125-foot building, 125 by 60, so that's a walk-around building for your people. Could be a walk-around building with
Correct.
the hose. However, I'm going to stand up again, Mr. Chair. Would it be helpful or more helpful if this was paved? So that maybe you could put a pumper in here or a water truck in here or something in here to help get to this. Because who knows what's back here? This is a pretty steep site as I remember. I've driven by it a bunch of times. Trees and granite probably back here. But that gives you, now you're only dragging, whatever, but you're gonna have somebody over here too.
And I understand Londonderry loves their green space, but fire trucks love pavement. So any additional pavement gives us better access.
Great, thank you very much. So to the applicant, are the things that I said, are those possible? Or is the,
Well, the first one goes through the septic system that you suggested, which is approved and ready for installation. And I apologize for the colors. They were little dotted lines that the computer did that were hard to read. So when it was all black and white, it was kind of hard to get that is Crayola type highlighted to try and show the directionality.
yeah,
the
it's
movement
just,
one.
you have a very professional plan here. It's very professional, and then over the top of it, it looks like my child got a hold of it, and I just.
It's all about graphical communication, and
Yeah,
the lines
I
that look
understand.
professional didn't quite, we got caught in the weeds so much last meeting.
That's a separate issue, and that's just me. That's just one person's opinion. But I think if I understand about the septic's all approved, whatever. But if it's chambers and you have H20s, you can drive over it, and I've been there, done that. So that could be not that big a deal. But I think it would help you out if you could widen this asphalt footprint. I mean, the last time I heard, the tires on these $1 million fire trucks are $1,000 or more.
Right, and I assure you that the tires were not going off the pavement with these turning, you can't see the little dotted lines, unfortunately, they're too faint, but the computer generates the things, and I wouldn't have proposed something that had tires going off the pavement. I do have a conscience
Sure.
as an engineer.
Yeah, I'm all set, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Anything from the board before I keep going?
I got something. Mr. Johnson, are you, the way it is right now, I understand it meets the minimum standard, right? The standard. Are you concerned right now you guys can effectively do your job if that's the only place you can get to the top of that hill?
It's hard to say not knowing where that 18-wheeler is going to be. And unfortunately, that could be with any building that we have in town. Where an 18-wheeler parks, where a FedEx truck or UPS truck parks, we don't have control over that. So not knowing, do I have concern? I have concerns of a lot of buildings. But unfortunately, like I said, my job is to enforce the code, which is the bare minimum. It does meet the code. But I do have, Mr. Chairman, can I ask the developer one question?
Of course.
When we met, was that parking lot on Building B closer, extended to the end of the building? Is this the plan I saw, or was the one I saw?
No, this is the plan that you saw that was prior to February of this year.
Because I was just wondering if they moved that and moved the 18-wheeler down a little, if that would.
And I think that was a bit of what Tony was saying is how can we move this lot? We've talked a whole lot about Building B. I haven't even gotten into Building A yet, and I can respect that the board how some of the board members have aired some concerns here, but I'm trying to put a little bit of reality into this. So I see a 10 by 28 temporary loading area. So double that's still not the size of a tractor trailer truck. The tractor trailer's backed up to Building A. Now there's not even a question, the truck's not getting up there.
There's no intention of tractor trailers on that building.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Are we basing the tractor trailer possibilities on the loading area? And the only reason I ask that is a lot of times when we're looking at these kind of plans, the buildings are immobile. And that's where it's going to be. It's got to be able to turn around that. But vehicles can always move around. Like, let's say someone had a really long driveway and they had a high school graduation party and there's a bunch of cars. We're not going to be able to maneuver around. So movable things are hard to judge. I can see like a loading area. It's likely to have something in there at some point in time. And that's a good way to judge it. But I don't know if we can judge it on anywhere all over the property. So I'm just trying to see how we're measuring where a semi could be.
I'm measuring it based off of, there's 3 spots in
The
this
loading
that
areas.
say loading area.
Okay.
Commercial building, loading area could be an Amazon van, a UPS truck, or a 70-foot tractor trailer.
Okay.
And, again, I understand and respect what Brian is saying. Yeah, it meets the minimum. To Mr. D's point, we have a responsibility to the fire department, we have a responsibility to the residents, and I can't help but look at this and say, in reality, in life, when you apply this and this gets built out, and there is a truck in one of these 3 spots, reality says we're not providing safe access. That's the way I see it.
That cleared it up for me.
Yeah.
'Cause it means one of those 3 possible areas. And
Yeah,
that's how we're
Mr.
judging.
Verani.
Mr. Chair, can I ask the applicant a question?
Sure.
Is the position of your building, Building B, is that like, could you move it back? I mean, I know it, all your other engineering, all your calcs, everything is already in place, and that complicates that. You have to recalculate it, but could you move it back? It looks like your grades are there.
As an engineer, I can do almost anything, but it's a matter of, it would be extremely costly. It would, we do have issues, that, again, we're trying to protect as much woodland back there as we can too, so we're trying to keep things tight to the front. I think the problem is I can't engineer on hypotheticals. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, no, I just, the thing I'm hearing a lot from is how tight that front parking area is, and if you could free up some of that space out in front of Building B, I think that might satisfy some of the concerns some of the board has.
And again, we've got the two options for turning at Building B, and both of them have room for a 70-foot truck to be at one side of the lot or the other. And again, we're talking about every 6-month active offloading.
Kelly, can you go to page 2 real quick?
You're on the site plan.
Yeah, sorry. Can you zoom into Building B there? See where the loading dock is?
That was the old one. You must,
The lot is still the same though, correct?
correct.
So just to put into perspective for the board, that's a 14 by 48 foot hashed out area. Tractor trailers without the truck is 48 to 53 feet long, plus another 20 to 25 feet for the actual tractor pulling the trailer. Just to put into perspective what 50 feet on that parking lot looks like, which may very well not even be the trailer. I understand you don't engineer on hypotheticals, but to your point, you said it a minute ago, I can engineer almost anything. To me, it feels like that's what you've done here, is you've engineered almost anything and been able to show that you can meet the standard in my eyes, is a substandard lot, Mr. D.
Yeah, and I would agree, Mr. Chair, with that comment, but Kelly, could you, I think the next page is the topos. Maybe not. I'm looking at page, I don't know what page I'm looking
Page 3 of 20 does have,
Careful, this is an old plan set.
16 as the oval is. of the-
Yeah,
of the building.
202, yeah.
This is an old plan set, though.
3 of 20 does have topography on it, Mr. D.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, could we zoom in on Building B, please? Yeah, that's not the page I have, but all right, stay with that one.
Kelly, he's on 16.
So, Mr. Chair, if the parking lot and the bay were moved to the far end of the building,
You're saying where, like, proposed northern grass seed mix is?
very top.
Yep.
So take this and bring it all the way up to here, connect this, bring the bay to here. Now you've got a good-sized pad here. This could probably move a couple of feet or two because the as-built is always different. And now you've got a much bigger pad here. Would that satisfy you?
I think it would certainly help ease my concern of Building B, for sure. I think if that were to happen, we could then show with reality and real life of a truck being here, we could show that it could be backed up to the overhead door and not cause an issue.
Now, does that ruin, to the applicant, does that ruin your interior plan for the building?
On interior is warehouse shop space, so it does not.
Okay. I mean, that seems like an easy, cheap fix.
I just, so, I think, so my concern on this, just in a holistic 30,000-foot view, is what standard are we, what is the standard that we are expecting to hold them to? And is it a, we'll know it when we see it, which is not necessarily very fair? So like, what is the firm, this is what it needs to be? Or is it just a come back and we'll let you know if what you give us is right, and then they come back and we go, oh, that's not quite right, and then they gotta do it again? Like, my concern is that we're kind of holding them to this nebulous, you know, like, again, sort of a theoretical situation where nobody really has a solid answer as to what it is exactly that we're looking for, or exactly that we're asking them to provide.
To put it on record, I have the same concern the way this conversation is going. From
So-
a risk standpoint, which is what I'm here to advise you on.
Yep.
Making
It
certain
opens a
that you're
can of
clear.
worms.
This is a discussion still, so I understand no decisions are being made.
Hold on,
But
Mr. Hood.
like I've said on repeat, we have standards that you need to reference. You've referenced one. But we need to be clear in this discussion and clear if and when a decision is made as to why and how you came to that decision. And specifically with this site, how is this different from other sites you've reviewed and you've held and maintained this NFPA standard? How is this different and why?
So.
And I'm not saying you haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
I'm just making it
No,
clear for everyone.
I understand that. And just for your point, you're asking, what are we going off of? I'm going off 3.09 A.1. It simply says there is safe and adequate vehicular traffic and pedestrian access.
Exactly, which is a fairly nebulous idea
Correct. So,
that we are holding them to.
so to, the point of the board is to try and get to a solution, right? I think that Mr. D just discussed a very realistic improvement to this lot that would certainly create a safe and adequate vehicular traffic up to Building B. That's
The-
my,
the
that's how
other-
I feel. Hold on one sec. Let him,
Yeah,
let me
absolutely.
let him finish.
Yeah. Oh, no, the other thing is, you know, we're big on, we're not going to engineer designs for applicants.
Sure.
And that's kind of what we're doing here.
I think, I just want to your point, in terms of a standard, yeah, that's your question, what standard are we holding them to? Historically, and you have, you know, you're looking at this site, but historically, the standard you've used for that regulation is the NFP standard. That's your reference point.
Right.
That's how the review process has been conducted. Just to give you a point of reference.
Thank you. Yep.
Sorry, Lynn, go
Hold
ahead.
on one sec. Lynn?
No, so to back up Jason's point, we're not engineers. We shouldn't be engineering a site here. With all due respect, Tony, we're not engineers.
Fine.
And, I still think we have to have a standard that we apply. I think any site plan coming before us, we could speculate that there's gonna be a semi-truck parked in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and it's gonna block fire truck access. We could do that for every plan, so are we gonna reject every plan? I don't think so. I don't think it's cause for this.
Mr. Chair, in my tenure on the planning board, this is kind of like, I mean, every plan is different, but this is a first because we've always gone with Brian's recommendation, and which is the NFPA standards. I think we're creating new ground here like we have with, Wilson Road, and we're not engineers. And I think historically, I think we should at least stay with what Brian is, because otherwise, what this needs is criteria. Because otherwise, it's whatever is in one's mind, which is all over the place. You go into court with that, the judge is going to ask you, what are the criteria? So I think that is my question. I think Jason, I think Linda's been asking, what are the criteria?
That's fair. And again,
And I don't see any.
and that's absolutely
So
fine. That's,
my
that's the beauty of this board. You all have an opinion, and it's okay if ours disagree. I would just ask the board if we get to a point that when we vote, you ask yourself, is there safe and adequate vehicular traffic and pedestrian circulation? Can you go home and say, yep, when this gets built, fire department will be able to get to this?
You know,
Based off of Mr. Johnson's saying that it meets the NFPA standards. He has said that he has concerns about it. Just gotta ask yourself, do you feel as though it's safe? It's fine if you do, it's fine if you don't, but you gotta ask yourself, and I think that's what's happening tonight.
we
Well,
have, Mr. Chair, thank you, we have in the past moved stuff. I'm just flipping my head very quickly here. It seems to me that we made Pillsbury Realty move a road entrance so that a fire truck could make a radius. That's just one example I can think of right off the top of my head. I'm sure I could find more. That said, if you all want to leave this alone, then so be it.
Give me 1 second, I'll let you talk. I don't think it is an unreasonable ask, and again, it's up to the board. I do not think it is an unreasonable ask for this applicant to extend the parking lot out to the edge of this building to create more space, to ensure that there's safe and adequate vehicular traffic. I think that's you've heard me say it time and time again, fair and reasonable, 2 words I say a lot. I think that's a fair and reasonable request to be able to know that we are providing safe and adequate vehicular traffic to this lot. I, as one member, don't think it's a huge ask or request. And to Mr. D's point, there's been stuff many times, all the time, that we ask to change on site plans. You know, can you add trees here? Can you add screening there? To say we don't do it is crazy. We do it at 70% of the meetings.
But we
And
ask.
we're correct. And we're fair and reasonable. And my ask to this applicant would be to bring the parking lot out to the edge of the building, extend out your parking space as far as you can, and be able, then I know, again, I'm just one person. You guys can all say, no, too bad. Then I at least can sit there and say, okay, there is safe access to Building B. We can get a fire truck all the way up to the top of this building, whether there's a tractor trailer there or not, and not have to worry about it. I think it's a very reasonable request. Before I go to you, it looked like Mr. Cruz, actually, you had something to say before I go to him.
Sure, and we can consider that. But one question I'm thinking about in my head is, would I feel safer in this building with a 28-foot access road and a truck there versus in my home with a 12-foot driveway and a UPS truck there? And my home, it's a wood frame structure. It's more prone to fire versus here. It's a metal building with access road that's twice as large. And I would feel safer having my kids in this building, even with an 18-wheeler there, than in my own house where my kids live now. So I feel if we applied the standard that if there's a truck there, a fire truck can get in, we wouldn't issue a single building permit to any residents, because most driveways, if you have a truck there, if you have a 200-foot driveway, you're going to block a fire truck. And if a fire truck gets there, you would ask the truck to leave, right? And these are small buildings. I know I drive by huge FedEx buildings, UPS buildings, where you can fit hundreds of trucks of material here. Like these buildings are pretty small. You get 6 trucks full, and there's not going to be a place to put in a matchbox in there. So it's, even if we sell this building, someone comes in, they're not going to have hundreds of trucks coming in and out of this lot. The building is not that big to accommodate that.
Would you be open to exploring what you could do to extend out this parking lot?
Sure,
to make it a little bit
we
bigger?
can certainly consider that.
There are ramifications that it's just not that easy. It's more impervious.
I understand
It
your-
reflects.
Yeah.
And may I, Mr. Chairman, if,
Yep.
just for a moment, you know, I'm given as an engineer, here's a fire truck radius, can you make it work? And I did. I made it work in 2 different locations on that. Who's the expert? That's who, when you have experts, you normally you rely on them. The only real expert I consider in this room is this gentleman over here. And I'm hearing an awful lot of non-expert speculation, and just, it's difficult. How do you engineer to just speculation when we've been given a firm engineering definition to what would make this work? We applied it, and we're told, well, there's something, we're not going to accept that as enough.
And I agree. Are we necessarily expert opinions up here? Not at all. But what we are is, I'm looking for reality. And there's been plenty of places in this town where we haven't, you can get as upset as you want. There's been plenty of places in town where reality wasn't applied, and it has not worked out in our favor. Although it showed that, oh yeah, we could meet it on an engineering plan.
I'm just
There's
speaking
plenty
to
of
you
places
have an
in
expert in the room.
Yeah, who has a concern, an expert who has a concern. So we're
About a
exploring that
hypothetical.
concern. Yeah. Is it hypothetical? Is it hypothetical to have a tractor trailer in a commercial warehouse that is a commercial property that has a loading dock?
It would be in the way.
But let me ask
I
you
can
that.
show you.
Is that
I
you're
can show
saying
you
it's
multiple
hypothetical. Do you
places
think that's
for
not
that
reality?
to go up there and the fire truck could go right by it.
Do you think it's not a reality that do you feel as though it's not a reality that there's going to be a tractor trailer at one of these 2 buildings? Hold on. Can you tell me
It's
it's
a
not a
reality
reality?
for-
Because I'm asking to talk about realities
And it's a
here.
reality at my house. We have a moving truck come.
Mm-hmm.
Hypothetical.
Correct.
And if you're putting that standard on everything, it's like, it's still the hypothetical. Is it a likely? It might be, and there's enough pavement, and there's a sea of pavement. You're making it sound like it's really tight, but I've seen some very good maneuvering with tractor trailers that, to get into tight spaces. And again, it's just an active drop off and go. So if someone is going to have 15 tractor trailers, they shouldn't be interested in this site at all. It's not designed for it.
So, back to my question. Is it a reality or not that there is going to be a tractor trailer in this lot?
Yes, but it's a reality that it may not, it's a hypothetical that it'll be in the way of a fire truck.
Correct.
You're going in circles.
Mr. Rudd,
Yeah.
hold on one
I
second,
think we need
guys.
to move along, Mr. Chair.
There's a reality there. I'm glad you've acknowledged the reality that there's going to be a tractor trailer in here. Now, this board can make a decision whether or not, based on the reality of a tractor trailer in here, if it's safe. It's up to each board member.
I already asked if I could answer
There
a
was somebody to my,
good.
you're good? Ann?
I'd like to ask our expert, our town engineer, if he had any comments to make.
Nope.
Okay.
Rely on Brian's the guy that knows an FPA.
Jake, I think I was the one that you were thinking.
I know I saw somebody this
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
so yes.
I would feel better on this if that was a sprinkled building. I know it, by regulation, it doesn't have to be, but again, taking Brian's comments into, I feel like having that as a sprinkled building would assist and help to alleviate some of the concerns we're having here. So if, from my perspective, I would like to see that added if it does go through.
So, anybody have anything before I go? You look like you maybe had something to say before I go to public comment here.
I'd like to go to public comment, and I think we have enough information to take a vote after that. I'm not hearing anything new.
Sure. All right. Anything from the public? Seeing none, I will close public comment. I would like to get the board's temperature on this. I would personally would like to see a continuance on this and see some of what we've discussed tonight added to this. Again, I'm one person, so it's up to the board as a whole.
So I have another question. Did I hear at the start of this hearing that there's other open items? Or is this it?
It's a waiver.
You have a waiver
No, no,
request?
some other open design items with some retaining walls or something like that?
And Earl, I think you're going to ask for a continuance.
Right.
Yeah, so the applic,
We
so.
were hoping to get this solidified on the truck turning, and then we were gonna ask for a continuance for some engineering issues that we're working out with John.
So we're not even in a
So
position
we're
to
not,
vote, right?
That's ultimately up to the board, but the request and staff would support it, given the outstanding engineering items, to continue it, to address.
So to vote on the fire access, I mean,
I was gonna say, I think it is fair for the board to come up with a consensus here before we continue this as to if we would like to see, for starters, there's been two things that have come up. There's been an add of a parking lot, and there has been sprinklers to the building. I think it's fair to give the applicant a consensus of the board whether the board would like to see that or not. Would you all agree?
No.
Because I think that's what they came here for tonight, was an idea of, do we feel as though this is handled, the board has no problem with it, it can proceed as it is? If that's the case, then this is done. If the board doesn't think that, then are one of the two options that have been suggested a reasonable alternate for what we're looking at here?
I would like to see if the applicant can handle it, or what they would like to do. You know, they've heard our opinions, and we have got our opinions, and in what direction you feel you should be going, and then bring that back to the board.
Before you answer that, Kelly.
I think you should do what you typically do, Mr. Chair, and go down the line here, because given the discussion, I think it's important for each individual board member to be very clear on where they stand to your question.
Yep.
To the consensus of, has the
The con-
fire access
correct.
been?
Correct.
And I think it's kind of three things.
Yeah.
Is the fire access adequate, as you've seen presented before you this evening? Is the fire access adequate, given the proposed change discussed with the additional pavement? And is the fire access adequate
I think that,
with the
I think if
sprinkles,
I think
with the
if the
building being
consensus
sprinkled?
of the board is that the fire access is adequate with what's here, then the other two would be a moot point, no?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying
So
if you need to address
step
those 2
one is
points.
to, get a consensus of the board, is the board comfortable with the way the parking lot is laid out today? That's step one. If the majority of the board feels as though there's no warranted improvement here to ensure that there's safe and adequate vehicular traffic access, then that's it, we're done. If the board says, no, we think there needs to be something added to it, then we'll get to the next two. So with that, I'll start with Ann. Do you feel as though the way it's presented today is adequate for, not just necessarily fire access, but is there safe and adequate vehicular traffic on this lot? Do you feel as though there is, yes or no?
According to the regulations, yes.
Okay, Mr. Verani?
Yeah, I think according to fire regulations, it is. And I think if we said otherwise, we could open ourselves up to something, so.
Mr. D?
So I think the site meets the NFPA standards. We've already discussed that they are minimums. I think because of the unique structure and layout of this site, including the topos, I think it makes it a unique site, more so than a flat, plain site. And so without some additional changes, I probably would not vote in favor of this plan.
Thank you. Mr. Wiles?
So I believe the plan is in compliance with the NFPA standards, so I support the plan.
Mr. Rudd?
I think as we've done in the past, if it supports the NFPA standards, that is what the town has applied in the past, and that's specific criteria, which I think beyond that, we really don't have any. And I think it comes down to the, one of the basic questions of decision-making. Do you plan for the average, or do you plan for the exception?
Thank you.
I believe this plan meets our standards.
I think it meets the standard.
Thank you.
Same, I agree. My agreement is the standard.
So there you go. You have your consensus.
Mr. Chairman, I request a continuance.
Could I have a
Continuance date, be July 9th?
I was gonna say it'd be the 9th or the 10th?
We have one July meeting, I believe it's the 9th. The 9th.
9th.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion that we continue this plan to the 9th of July, 2025, at 7 PM right here.
I have a motion from Mr. Rugg. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
I have a second from Lynn. All in favor, starting with Ann, please.
Aye, Ann Champa.
Giovanni Barani, aye.
Tony D, aye.
Lynn Wiles, aye.
Arthur Rugg, aye.
Jason Knights, aye.
Sean Faber, aye.
John Cruz, aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. You have been continued. We'll see you on July the 9th, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have conceptual, non-binding discussion for the construction of outdoor pickleball courts and indoor tennis courts, 1, 2, 3, and 5 Highlander Way, map 28, lot 10 and 14, zone commercial 2. Executive Health and Sports Center is the applicant.
The world is expanding.
I just got a comment. Breakfast of Champions, M&M's and Coke.
What do you want first? This?
Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good.
Give you a minute here to get situated. Mr. Johnson, thank you very much for tonight, sir.
There you go.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
We'll see you next time.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Bob Duval, TF Moran. To my right is Mike Benton, the I don't know what you are, the president, the ruler of the executive.
Yeah, I'm kind of the member that nobody recognizes any longer, but I'm guilty as charged. Yes.
Means you're doing a good job.
Also with us is Mike's two sons, Josh and Justin, and Aiden Schlotman, an engineer
Good evening,
from
gentlemen.
TF Moran. So, in distinction with the previous application that you just heard, this is a conceptual. We haven't designed this site. Just what I don't want to do is get into the weeds on it because, you know, there's a lot of design work that has to be done that would answer all the kind of questions if this were a site plan review. What we're really hoping for is to have a discussion with the board about what's being proposed here so that we can get your concerns, make sure they're addressed in our design, and come back to a plan that you love when you see it and, you know.
How's your fire truck turning radius? That was rhetorical.
No tractor trailers.
No crayons, no tractor trailers. So, that's just the, you know, the kind of thing it's premature to get into exactly. And I know that you were, you know, being facetious, but, you know, we can't really talk about how we're going to do the drainage. We can't talk about circulation because we haven't done it yet. But what we can do and what Mike is going to do is talk about the genesis of the idea for what's being proposed here, what the idea includes, and how we're going to phase our way into this thing should it move ahead. So,
Sure.
Mike.
Sure. Thank you for the time. So this is a continuance of January of 2023. We came to the zoning board of approval on subdividing 2 lots. And it was a Herculean, I think the zoning board stayed after midnight to get the zoning approvals. It was much, much appreciated by all of us. And we now are looking to master plan and have gone back to the airport. We've acquired the 2 lots. We've acquired the lot underneath the executive, and we've acquired the lot where you see the tennis courts buildings, the 2 buildings. And then we leased additional land across the street. So let's understand that the 2 lots that we own, one will not be touched at all, and that's where the executive sits today. The lot that will be touched is actually a non-conforming lot where we basically got the approvals of zoning to build buildings or structures on the lot, and the leasehold lot, which is across the street where you see the parking spaces, is a brand new lot for us, and that's where we intend to put the outdoor pickleball courts. The indoor pickleball courts will be on the non-conforming lot where the zoning approvals have been approved. This is a very exciting project for us. We feel that pickleball is a natural extension to what we do today. It has a strong following from the south, heading to the north very quickly. We are actually looking, if you could see in the far right, up towards the corner where you see the airport, the red, it's hard for me to point out, but the far right championship court. We intend to have regional and actually national pickleball court championships where possibly professional, and bring business to the greater Manchester area in terms of additional tourism through the sport of pickleball. So our thought here is to be a regional location where folks would fly in, stay at hotels, eat at our restaurants, and attend the tournaments. Now, we probably would have 6 of those a year, and the rest of the time is general play in leagues. So we feel like we've adequately provided both parking as well as access in the conceptual phases, and we're open to any thoughts you might have in that area. The airport, of course, already gives us a substantial amount of parking around the area. They're in the business of planes and cars, and so we don't feel that we would be limited in parking for any of the 6 tournaments that we would hold on an annual basis. So having said that, I'd just like to open it up. We recognize that this is a process we'd like to try and complete as soon as we possibly can. So it's one of the reasons why we early on met with John and Kelly and Nick and got their feedback, and our strong desire to meet with you all to get yours. So thank you very much for the time.
I think a couple of things that would be helpful to the board to understand how this is going to work is how your membership works and how, who would be the users of this facility.
So we envision creating a 200 initial, what we're calling racket or executive country club memberships. So in the past, the executive was viewed more of a health and wellness facility, and it still will be, and will continue to offer those membership types. But to this regard, there really isn't a racket country club in the greater Manchester or New Hampshire area. There's racket tennis locations, but nothing that provides pool, swimming, pool dining, viewing dining, and that's what we're going to try and create. Well, it's what we're proposing to create here. So it's a lot broader, and that there would be around 200 founding members in the country club, and then up to probably 500, because the last thing we want to do is not provide court time. And then, of course, open it up for general play and open it up to the general public as well. So all the membership types do is give scheduling access and a whole list of other dining privileges and other types of privileges. But we would also be open to the general public. So anybody who wanted to just come in and play a game of pickleball, as long as the court was available, they could. So it's kind of a combination of non-member and member. But there will be a whole slew of benefits and privileges for those that are what we're calling ECC, the Executive Country Club membership. And so that's but once again, limited to the number that we feel would be supported in terms of use of the facility and also use of the services.
Another thing that's worth pointing out is that this would be phased. Could you go back to the red concept plan? Thanks. And actually, there's a second sheet that's a little more blown up there. So the idea is that this would be built in phases. The first phase would include the pickleball courts, the 5 pickleball courts that are just to the left of the championship court. That would be phase 1, outdoor pickleball. And then the building, the long, narrow building across the street would also be part of phase 1. That's enclosing the tennis courts there that would be able to be converted into pickleball courts. And then the phase 2 would be the balance of the outdoor pickleball courts on the upper left of the project, and and possibly at this point a second building that's shown just to the bottom of the longer building. So the phase 1 inception of this project would be the long, thin building and the 5 courts just to the left of the championship court, and also that small parking area and sort of amenity space, social area is what we've called it, where people can picnic, people can just gather and possibly have food trucks that would come on weekends or on special occasions, or perhaps even on a regular basis. But all of these amenities, which is really what they are, of the executive club, would be under the control of the executive club. And people, this is private property, people would not be coming down here to use this facility without checking in with the executive club, who would control access to these facilities by membership in the first instance, and then by check-in in the second instance, just to make sure that they're in control of the activity that goes on in that site. And just by way of background, and I'll be opening up here for your questions and comments in a moment, but typically pickleball courts, outdoor pickleball courts, indoor pickleball courts, generally generate, if it's a standalone type facility, 3 to 4 parking spaces per court. But in this particular case here, this being an amenity to the club, and it's very likely that people who use this part of the club's offerings will also be there anyway for a different purpose, maybe have somebody working out, a member of the family, maybe somebody using the pool, or using the gym for that matter. So there would be a substantial overlap with the existing membership of the club. So we wouldn't expect to see the full 3 or 4 per court as new parking demand or new traffic demand. It would be just some overlap with existing demand of the club. So with that in the basics, and there'll be time to get into the drainage and the traffic and the parking and the fire apparatus circulation and so forth with the site plan application. But what we're really here for is to get your reaction on, is this a good use for this area? Is this something that you think would be something the board can support? And what are your initial
Kelly,
feedback?
could you just flip through the renderings real quick and we can explain those? And so this would be we have an existing tennis building for the 4 outdoor tennis courts, which, by the way, we've already resurfaced 1 tennis court into 4 pickleball courts. So they're available today if anybody would like to come out and try the courts. The tennis building to the left, that would be where we've resurfaced, and there would be 8 pickleball courts in that enclosure, or we would convert it back to 2 indoor tennis courts. We haven't decided whether at this point it will either be tennis or pickleball, whether we end up putting 12 in our existing tennis place and moving the tennis. So we're in the process of identifying which direction we'll go in that area. But the building would look like this, definitely the outdoor pickleball courts would be to the right. The next picture is looking at the championship court that you see there, and then all of the outdoor pickleball courts heading in a linear path, and then down to the next, which is the outdoor social area, where you would have cornhole, picnics, food trucks, just a general area where people would gather while they're waiting for matches. And that would be the extent of the complex.
All right. I'll start with Kelly, and then I'll come to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as was stated, we've met with the applicant several times and ultimately advised them to come to the board for input before they formally submit. So they've done that this evening, obviously. In terms of next steps procedurally, there is a rezoning application that you'll see. I believe we have it scheduled for July. And that is as it relates to this parcel right here. That is, that needs to come forward before the site plan application, because this parcel is zoned AR1, while this is all zoned commercially. And so when you have an AR1 abutting a commercial, it triggers an additional buffer, which would ultimately make this not feasible. I'll have more comments on that, obviously, when we have the formal application before you, but just, it also is an AR1 zoned property in an area where there's no other AR1 zoned properties right here, other than, of course, Brown Ave way further away. But just to point that out procedurally, that's what you'll see next from this applicant. And then, of course, after that, we would expect our standard site review process.
Thank you. All right. I will start with the board. Does anybody have any comments? Ann?
Having been an old ski area, there's quite an elevation change as you're going down towards Brown Ave. I'm just curious how you're going to handle that, and
actually, the elevation is where the courts are. The topo is fairly linear. It's not steep. It gets steep very quickly to the.
It would be like to the north, right?
Yeah, if you were looking, see where the second building is, and if you look further down, it's very steep there. And if you look to the far left, it gets very steep towards the back of the lot. I think where they used to sled down with the skis, it's to the north of the building. So we've kind of escaped where you see the pickleball courts. It's fairly flat there.
There used to
be
be
a hotel or
the
something
property
right
before.
Yeah, that used to be the convention center.
Yep.
In fact, we're actually
The Highlander?
the Highlander Convention Center is really where the courts are going. Right.
See, the area where the two buildings are is relatively flat. The little social area, truck court area is a little bit higher. And then the ground raises maybe 6 or 8 feet up between the linear building and the Phase 2 pickleball courts. So there is a little bit of site topography that we got to work with, but that social area gives us a sort of a way to get up, part way up, and then the courts would be the rest of the way up.
Okay, and as far as the parking, I know there's 2 parking lots. You owned a good chunk of parking, but to the left, there's a salt shed and other parking. Is that owned by the?
That's the airport's.
Airport property.
Okay.
Yeah.
And even the blue outline area is going to remain airport property. It's just a lease
Leasehold interest.
by
Be leasing it
executive.
from the airport.
For 80-year lease, more or less. Yeah.
80?
80. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm all done, thank you.
That's why you have your sons here.
That's right. That's right. I won't be around when that.
So it's an allowed use by zone, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to get a variance to change the zone so you can fall within your setbacks, but, so what are you asking our opinion on?
Well, go ahead.
Please, not both of you at once.
No, no.
You first. And then
Go ahead.
I
And
just want to give you proper feedback.
well, so for once, we do know that I believe the only zoning requirement that we may need is the fact that with the second building, we may be, the building coverage would exceed what you would normally provide between the land, the uplands of the land and the building.
Let me kind of go through the zoning with you. This is basically would be fully, with the exception of the potential second building, which would slightly exceed the regulation of 25% building coverage on a lot. Everything else would be entirely conforming. We wouldn't really need new variances, even as far as the rezoning of the lot to AR1 that Kelly explained. That wouldn't require a variance. If it's rezoned, that I think it's a 100-foot buffer goes away, so that we would become conforming if that lot is rezoned. And it's the airport itself that's proposing to do that rezoning. Having worked with Mike and as Kelly pointed out, it's kind of sticks out like a sore thumb into their property on this side of Brown Ave. So it's to their advantage for this use or any effective use of that land to rezone that and make that buffer go away.
So if you got the rezoning, which I agree makes sense to make all the lots in an area in same similar zone, you wouldn't have to have any relief from the site plan or the zoning regulations.
Right, other than the Phase 2 building, the intent is to design this in conformance with the regulations, yes.
All right. I mean, I'm just trying to understand it makes sense, an associated use, serves a need. That's all I got.
Mr. D?
Yeah, so conceptually, it makes sense to me.
I think it looks good. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yep, it's good. I think it's making good use of property there. So it's, good luck.
Great.
Thank you.
Gentlemen?
I think it looks great. My only concern first looking at it was pickleball is allowed, but it doesn't look like you really have many abutters near that area. So, those two lots are still airport owned. So I think you're probably okay. I think it looks awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, we thought that the Jets
no,
might be
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
louder.
exactly.
The Jets may be a lot louder than the pickleball. This is
Might be a little
Bob's-
louder.
Bob's
Yeah.
comment. Right.
I think there's certainly demand in this town for something like this, and you're going to make a certain contingent of people very happy.
Thank you.
How are you controlling access? I know you said it was going to be,
Good
you guys
question.
control who has access to it.
So right now, 15 years ago, when we got the approvals for the 4 tennis courts, that was of concern. So we actually built the infrastructure in the walkway. So you actually come through, nobody is given access to that section of the property without coming through the front desk. So everybody will park in the larger executive parking lot, come they get their paddles, which are the keys that opens the doors into the courts. And they bring their paddles back up, and of course there's lighting. So everybody will come through the front door of the executive to have access to the property.
Good, thanks.
I think you guys, conceptually, I think this is a great use of the land behind your facility. I think it's very unique. I can't think of anything similar to this. I certainly, on a conceptual basis, support it without a doubt. I agree. I think you're serving a need in the community. I like how it has public access, although you're a club, it has public access. I think it's phenomenal.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Well, we agree. It's fun and it's good for you, so.
Can't say I'm old enough to play pickleball, but that's all.
It's very, very unique that you have a pickleball venue like this and an urgent care in the same vicinity. So we will serve both purposes.
Mr. D. And I think in that vein, your little social area there with the food trucks and whatever.
Yes.
I think it would be appropriate that you have an oxygen bar there as well. I know people that have done it, and it's a great revenue source. And B, you might need it.
Good point. Good point.
Well, gentlemen, that's one person I look forward to seeing the site plan.
Great. Well, thank you all for your positive feedback.
Awesome. Thank you for the patience tonight, gentlemen.
No.
Have a good one.
It doesn't quite.
All right, moving on. Other business. The Woodmont PUD annual update.
Yep, give me a second.
Take your time, Kelly.
So I'm gonna be, so this annual update's a requirement per the agreement, the development agreement with the Woodmont Commons PUD, Pillsbury Realty Group. So I'm gonna be letting in Lucy Gallo, who's a consultant that Pillsbury Realty has contracted to speak to their annual fiscal update. So just give me a second.
Sure. Mr. Smith, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm great. I don't know if Kelly just said it, but I think we're going to have Lucy Gallo go first.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's certainly. My name is Lucy Gallo, and I'm a principal with Development Planning and Financing Group, and I've been working on the Woodmont Commons fiscal update since 2013. So it's always a pleasure to join you to watch the progress unfold. I want to say a big thank you to Kelly and Justin Campo and Sarah Jardine Lee, and then Miss Amity Small at Londonderry Public Schools. I couldn't complete the engagement without their help and cooperation, so thanks to all that group. As I've done in prior years, I'm just going to walk you through the highlights of the report, and just starting on page 4. At the bottom of the page, as a reminder, the fiscal matters portion of the development agreement outlines the requirements of the annual fiscal update, which we have followed again consistently since 2013. On page 5, just another reminder that the report uses the methodologies employed in the 2013 report as required. The measurement period for this analysis is July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. At the bottom of page 5, you'll notice that 441 new residents were living in Woodmont Commons for the measurement period. That's an increase of 213 new residents from the prior year, primarily due to the opening of the Baldwin in October 2023. On page 6, in table 1, you'll see a breakdown of the population per residential product type. On page 7, you'll see a detailed listing of all the employers within Woodmont Commons. I had some exciting new employment totals for 2024 with 83 new employees added for the Baldwin, and then 6 other new employees added for other tenants. So again, 208 employees within Woodmont Commons on site. If you'll turn to page 8, as a backdrop, you can see how the Baldwin and the increase in value of Woodmont Commons have had a substantial impact on the assessed values. Looking at table 3, the value from 2022 to 2023 nearly doubled, and that was related to the assessed value of the Baldwin coming on as that project was completed. We're in, again, for this particular report, we will be property tax revenues were measured off of the values of April 1, 2023. Towards the bottom of the page, DPFG works closely with town staff to identify any potential incremental operating and capital expenditures allocable to Woodmont Commons, so definitely a collaborative process. Page 9 at table 4 at the top of the page. One of the techniques that we use in trying to identify if there have been any incremental operating expenditures are to look at the employment counts across the town's departments in looking at the filled positions report. That's just a starting point to try to identify if there have been any allocable cost. And based on analysis and discussions with the town, no allocable incremental personnel cost or incremental operating costs were identified as a result of the analysis. In looking over to page 10, at table 5, this is the annual allocation of the Central Fire Station debt, the allocable portion to Woodmont Commons. And outside of this allocation, the finance staff and DPFG did not identify any other capital acquisitions during fiscal year 2024 that would qualify for in any sort of allocation for the terms of development agreements. The summary in table 6 gives you a year-over-year review of the net fiscal impact of the project on the town. So you'll see the annual net revenues for 2024 were $601,000, and the cumulative net revenues since 2014 were about $3.6 million. And that $3.6 million represents the net revenue that Woodmont Commons has generated for the town. On page 11, in the first paragraph under Londonderry School District, we had 18 public school children living in Woodmont Commons during the fiscal year. There was a net decrease in 1 student, and obviously the growth in the project came from the Baldwin during the past year, but the Baldwin doesn't generate any public school children, so it didn't really have any effect on the So in the table 7, this 7.7 million or 7.8 million represents the cumulative net revenues that the project has generated for the school district since inception. Again, on page 12, working with the school district staff, we did not identify any allocable incremental operating or capital expenditures for this school district for fiscal year 2024. That's a very quick summary, but it was a good year and no real surprises, I think, going on, but I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any for me.
Sure. I will start with Kelly. You have anything?
All set, Mr. Chair.
Anything from the board?
I had a question because I noticed this is dated February 21st, 2025, and now it's months later. Is there a reason for the delay, or I think we could have had this in our hands really back at March, so we could probably really take a closer look at it than we
So
have
you
tonight.
typically hold this annual update in May or June. That's when you've historically held the update.
Yeah, but I'm talking about getting the information to the board quicker.
This is how we've done it historically. I'm happy to change it going forward.
Well, way back, we used to do it in March and April. And
You're
then
saying the
it got
board would
pushed off.
receive it in March or April, and then we would discuss it in June?
Do that, yeah. See who remembers from reading it, so. At least, and the other thing is, I'd like to see this put on the town website.
It will go up
Yes.
after this meeting.
Okay,
In
thank
fact,
you.
it might already be on the website, but I don't know if it was uploaded with these materials, but I can certainly do that.
Thank you, Kelly. And then, yeah, if just next year, whenever you could send it over to the board to digest, that would be fantastic.
You got it. This will actually permanently reside on the Woodmont Commons PUD page.
Makes
just
sense.
so everyone understands where it's gonna go.
Sure. All right. Anything else from the board?
What would be the total population in there? Because the numbers you gave were over the last year. What would you say the total population would be?
So if you turn back to, let me get to the correct page, to page 6, there were 441 persons living in the Woodmont Commons residential components for the fiscal year 2024.
Oh, okay, so that is total. I thought that was increased. Okay.
Yes, sir, that's total.
Okay. So with only 18 school children out of that, that's pretty decent. Okay.
441 times, what's the 0.17? So I think the statistic says there should be 75 school-age children in that, and there's only 18. So that's always good. Anything else from the board? Seeing none, I will, Mr. Smith, is it your turn?
It is. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you very much. I'll look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Take care.
Mr. Smith, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Just waiting on
Sure.
Kelly to put the PowerPoint up. Kelly, am I
Have
able to
a-
control it with this?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. All right, so we'll start off, new for in this past year. Wood Partners, they started construction back in the fall. I think they were working 24/7 and on holidays as well to get those units up as quick as they did. 264 total multifamily units. They began opening this spring. I believe they may have gotten their CO on 2 of the buildings as well as the leasing office. Derry Medical Center 2 is currently under construction, and they have a projected CO in late fall of this year. Even though Derry Medical is owning the building, they're going to be leasing the entire building to a Boston-based medical group, which I cannot mention at this meeting. But they will be making that announcement, I'm told, very shortly. So I don't want to steal their thunder, but they should be in there the late fall. Exit 4A, Phase 1 is entirely completed now. And the Pennachuck Water Tank Transmission Line and Booster Station project was also completed. And that was done in December of '24. So just some pretty pictures. There's the apartments, the Wood Partners apartments. Those are the 2 buildings that I believe either have their CO or are about to get their CO. There's the leasing building for them. This is the Derry Medical 2 at the end of Main Street. I put this picture on there because if you recall, and I would give compliments to the Heritage Commission on this, that is going to be an all-brick building. I think it's going to look very sharp when it's finished. This is exit 4A. This is looking east, going up towards Derry. This is as if you would come off the highway from the south. That's looking over the new overpass, going to the other side. That's looking west into Londonderry. And this one specifically for you, I don't know how that happened.
But I'll tell you something.
But it has since been replaced, Dan.
Yes. As you're going south and you're going under the bridge.
I know what you're going to say.
It says OLD.
Yes.
No E.
No E.
No E.
I noticed. I don't know where these ones went. I was hoping to get one as a memento, but no such luck.
But I did notice on the bridge.
It says Derry.
Yes.
I noticed that too.
And I'd like it to say Londonderry because I want it to be noted as a Londonderry exit. Because Old Run Trail only runs through Londonderry. It stops at the Derry line, and they name the street from then on.
I believe it was probably an oversight on DOT's part because the bridges typically have the names of the town that the bridge is in. And that bridge is in Londonderry. I think it was an oversight by DOT. Someone thought it was Derry, much like they put an E on the end of Old. I'll see if we can get that fixed.
Some paint and stencil in London in front of the Derry. But,
Let's have DOT have a crack at it first.
hey, I used to be a typeface
I
designer.
understand that, but let's let them have a crack first. If you don't like it, then you can give it a try.
No, I was kidding.
Yeah.
And this is the water tank
The list?
off of Gordon Drive. If you haven't taken a ride up to see it yet, that's what it looks like. And that is the booster station down along Michael's Way. While these aren't the most, oops, I meant to go back.
Brought us to the party too soon.
I did. These aren't the most sexiest pictures. However, this infrastructure alone was over $6 million. This is serving not only Woodmont, but many areas within southern Londonderry to make sure that there's enough water suppression. And so this was a split project in terms of payment between Pennachuck and Woodmont Pillsbury. So Pillsbury paid a little over $3 million for this project. And I did want to just note that 603 Brewery does such a great job over there, and they have many events all year long, different seasonal events. Those first two pictures are from their Winterfest they did back in February. 5,000 people came out that night. You could actually see the bonfire flames from I-93. But they just did an awesome job down there. They have their Oktoberfest. Those are pictures from that. They just had their 603 day last Saturday, and unfortunately, of course, it rained. But they still had a very good turnout even despite the weather. So I did want to give them compliments, and also compliments as well to Londonderry Police and Fire, who help facilitate these events, and they're very well organized and very well controlled. So what's in the pipeline for this year? As you all know, Trammell Crow just got their conditional approval for the Gateway Industrial Park off of Exit 4A. Procopio is proposing a 300-home village north of Pillsbury Road, so that entire residential area to the north. They are currently in design review with the town, but have also been to the Heritage Commission and the Conservation Commission.
Did they bump it up from 260? Was it 260?
It's the plans, and you've probably seen, are 250 single-family rentals, and then they're going to have a separate site plan that are 50 market rate homes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so 300 total. We do have a signed LOI with a hotel developer that is looking to put a Hyatt flag, and that would be located behind the Derry Medical 2 building. They are still working through their construction costs right now, try to bring the budget down to make this project happen. But if they're able to do that, that will move forward. We're negotiating 2 LOIs right now with restaurants on Block 1. That's the block that's is adjacent, abuts Michael's Way, right after TJ Maxx and Home Goods in that area. We have a pad there for 4 restaurants, but we're currently negotiating with 2 for that block. And we have multiple parties that are interested in completing Main Street. So that would be on the other side of the existing building, where you would have similar 4-story retail on the bottom, apartments on the top. Jason, I think it was you last year that said medical buildings are nice, but we want restaurants and retail, and we couldn't agree more. That's where our emphasis is. That's where our focus is, and we are working like mad to make those things happen.
Thank you.
So, just a quick note on the sewer facilities. Again, on the east side, enabling legislation that was passed last year allows Londonderry to enter into agreement with Derry for sewer capacity at Exit 4A. I believe that intermunicipal agreement was approved by the town council, correct, Kelly. So that is now a done deal. And so there's sewer available on the east side. And on the west side, we continue to work with the town on the construction of what will be the Pillsbury Road Sewer Pump Station. I believe the RFP for bids will be going out sometime in late summer, early fall of this year for that project. How much density remains? So on the west side, currently used or planned, 679 residential units. That's already built, 30 Main Street, Wood Partners, Gilcrest Road, the Stabile properties, and then I included Procopio in that count as well. Commercial office space, there's 621,000 roughly. That's Derry Medical Center 1, Derry Medical Center 2, the Baldwin, 603 Brewery, and also the 30 Main Street retail commercial space. And then assisted living, 26,000 square feet, also contained within the Baldwin. Remaining space for the west side, 401 units of residential, roughly 365,000 square feet of commercial office, 54,000 square feet of assisted living, although I will tell you that the Baldwin has exclusivity on that side for assisted living, so that we could only expand off of the Baldwin. And then also 150 hotel rooms. That is what is remaining in the PUD master plan in the matrix. Not necessarily all of that is going to be built. And if you look at how much land is remaining on the west side, you roughly have 31 acres north of the Baldwin, though not all of that is buildable. You have 6.2 acres of land just to the west of that, where the existing barn is in that little ranch home. And then further south, you have about 6.8 acres along Main Street, and then another, call it 4.8 acres in that front pad where we're currently negotiating with those restaurants. On the east side, for density, you have 750,000 square feet of industrial that's planned for Trammell Crow. Again, remaining options, 350 units of residential, 200 hotel rooms, 700,000 square feet of commercial office, and 420 square feet of institutional. Again, these are options. It's highly, highly unlikely because of available land, easements on it, setbacks, height limitations, that you could ever get all of this on the remaining land. So that roughly there's 92 acres remaining to the north of Old Rum Trail and where Trammell Crow is going to develop. But as you can see, there's utility easements on that, and there's wetlands, and there's some difficult topography on that side as well. So this one may have been cut off a little bit. So economic factors currently straining building and construction. A couple of things I do want to point out on this. So first of all, on residential dwellings, you still have demand a lot higher than supply. That's one of the reasons why rents are still very high and for sale homes are very high. I don't think by anyone's standard they're affordable. The new Wood Partners apartments, I think for a studio is starting at like $2,400, or one bedroom's $2,400, and they're listing the 3 bedrooms at $4,200. Jesus. I mean, it's crazy. But one of the things driving that is the demand is very, very high and the supply is still very low. You want to bring down costs, the supply and demand has to equal out a little bit.
So, just a correction, then they are affordable. If people are buying them and people are renting them, then they must be affordable.
Well, I guess you could
For
say
some people.
affordability is in the eye of the beholder, right?
They're not empty.
No, they're not.
Well, I guess they're affordable.
But there's other, always a contrarian,
Just saying.
Tony.
Who, him? No.
I keep hearing about it.
I don't disagree.
Everything's not affordable, but everything's selling,
It's selling.
and all the rental places are full.
Well, my son graduates from college in 2 years, and at these prices,
He'll be back.
He's going to be living at 6 King Philip for quite some time. Other things, though, driving it's not just supply and demand. So, number one, construction costs, they're not changing at this point. They're not as volatile now anymore either, but they're not coming down. Construction costs, it's like the new normal now. They're high. There's uncertainty around the tariffs, especially with steel and wood. You're having subcontractors that are putting premiums on their bids. putting in a cushion for the tariffs because no one really knows what's going to happen there a year from now. High interest rates mean higher carrying costs. So that's driving up prices as well. Long lead time on materials is requiring better planning on the part of the developers. And then a protracted local and state permitting process. This isn't a knock against Londonderry. This is everywhere. The process is just taking a lot longer now between local and state permitting. So if it's a year between the time you submit for a project and when it gets approved, you're trying to build a budget based on what the economic factors and conditions will look like a year from now. And the other thing I would say too is most developers, not all, but most of them do carry some kind of debt in the form of either private equity, large capital groups, bank debt. But when you're trying to attract private money, your return has got to be attractive for them to want to put money into the project, or else they're going to put their money into something where they can get a better return on. So that's just another factor that's driving up the cost of the end unit to the consumer. And the very good news you just heard from Lucy, but I felt that needed to be stated again. Last year alone, over $2 million in net tax revenue to the towns and schools, and over $11 million in net tax revenue since the project was approved in 2013. So this has been a money generator. When you net out the expenses of what it takes to service this, it's been a pretty good deal for the town so far. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So to translate that, if Woodmont wasn't there at all, that'd be $2 million in taxes we'd have to come up with.
That you would not have this year. Yep.
Well put. I think those are some incredible numbers, that last slide there. $2 million in 2024 and $11 million since 2013 net tax revenue. Obviously, there's a lot going on there now that is going to add to that between Wood Partners, Derry Medical Center too. Those are not factored into this, I would
Right.
assume, correct?
Yeah, those are only partial, because they're as of April 1st, so
Yes.
those would have just been partial tax
Yep.
bills.
And then, I mean, I know it's a little ways down the line here, but the east side of the highway to the south, I believe that parcel, or those parcels, is gonna be about $2 million a year. In tax revenue today. That's today's money.
Right.
So never mind what it's gonna look like 4 or 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Anything from the board?
It's doing what was planned.
Yep.
It's been a long road, but
Yep.
it's coming.
A little slow, but I think it's gaining momentum.
Distillery. Need that distillery on the east side.
I'm sure you hear the same thing I do all the time. Where's the village?
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, we do. We do, and that's still the vision, you know. And as you can see, there's a lot of commercial space available to still be developed there, and primarily that's what it's going to be now that most of the residential on the west side is getting built out. But you know, the walkable village that you can go grab an ice cream, take the kids to the playground. You know, all of that's still the vision of it, and those are the things we're working on.
I think that's kind of been echoed for a while now, is we need the residential to come to be able to support.
It's always been a big part of it.
Yeah. Yep.
I've always been surprised about that, because, you know, between Londonderry, Derry, and Manchester, within 15 minutes, you got 200,000 people.
Right.
So it's always struck me as odd that, well, we need another 100 houses for anyone to build anything.
Right.
When you've got, and that's not even counting Salem or Nashua or Hudson, you know. So it's always struck me as weird that people were hesitant to build because there wasn't enough houses within a visible site when you've got 250,000 people within 15 minutes. you
Right.
know.
I will tell you, it's been incredibly frustrating, especially with the restaurant users, trying to convince them to go in there, because in their minds, first off, they want to be right on 102, right? And they look at this development as almost too far back, even though, and we tell them this, that market basket there is number one in gross sales in the state, that market basket. 30 to 35,000 customers a week go through that store. So you have a lot of cars that are going in and out of that area. But if you're a restaurateur, they're always thinking visibility, visibility. And so for them, they're thinking, well, is this development going to be able to support the restaurant? Whereas we all know, all of us who live in Londonderry, know it's 60,000 people just between Londonderry and Derry alone, right? So that's one of the frustrations. And the other thing we always hear is, well, you know, because I've gone after a few very well-known restaurants that are in Salem, in Bedford, and they think they're capturing this entire market in those two areas. And it's hard to convince them they're not. But we know they're not. And so so the residential has been a big component to now them looking at the development a little bit differently, going, oh, okay.
People can walk here.
The hotel, I believe, will be a game changer. And that's why we're really trying to get that to work, because we've also had to have a well-known user who has said that they would be interested in putting in like an event center in the west side downtown, but only if the hotel goes in, which makes sense. You know, you need a place for people to stay if they're going to do an event there. So I think we're very close to where the dominoes are just going to start falling on this, and it's just going to take kind of that one anchor commercial tenant to come in and do it.
Anything else from the board?
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Smith? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
All right. On to the next thing. Public hearing on amendments to the Londonderry zoning ordinance, site plan regulations, and subdivision regulations relating to the definition of an abutter. The following sections are proposed to be amended. Site plan regulations 1.04, and subdivision regulations, section 1.04, both definitions. Ms. Karen.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, could I speak to B and C at the same time?
Absolutely.
So, we heard on both of these items, as you just outlined, the definition of a butter, and then the site plan regulations, specifically the off-street parking loading table at our meeting last week. We're required to have 2 hearings on these items, as they're in the site plan and subdivision regulations. And so, if it's okay with the board, I will save you from my full recap of those definitions and changes, and encourage you to open to any public that is here, so we can hear from them if we need to.
Board have any objection?
No.
All right. I'll open up public comment. And I will close public comment. Board, how would we like to move on items B and C? I would be looking for a motion to adopt said amendments.
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. D. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
I have a second from Lynn. All in favor, starting with Ann, please.
Ann Champa, aye.
Giovanni Verani, aye.
Tony D, aye.
Lynn Wiles, aye.
Arthur Rugg, aye.
Oh, Sean Faber, aye.
John Cruz, aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative, and make
Yeah,
note
one-
that
Jason's missing.
Jason is out of the room for the moment. So these amendments have been adopted. Kelly.
Thank you.
D, we have a public hearing on amendments to the Londonderry zoning ordinance relating to solar collection systems. A new ordinance is proposed for solar energy collection systems, proposed section 5.22 of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I will defer to Lynn and Kristen in just a moment, but I'm sure the board recalls we had a healthy discussion about this ordinance at our meeting last week. And it's my understanding that some changes were made in response to that, potentially, or we have some information to respond to that.
So, Kristen made some changes. I know the one change dealt with height, system height, and the other changes, can you speak to those? And I'll speak to what we didn't change.
Sure. On the stormwater, I think it was the stormwater management section, John Trottier had advised us to just basically follow the requirements of the site plan regulations. So in the draft, what do you call it? Crossed out the long explanation of how to manage that and just put in stormwater management for non-residential systems shall comply with section 3.07 storm drain system of the site plan regulations. And if you could take a look at that and tell me if you agree with laying it out that way or not, that would be helpful.
All right. Lynn, do you have anything you'd like to add to it, sir?
So we had a fairly lengthy discussion on ground-mounted systems at the last meeting, and reviewing the wording with staff and looking at additional towns and cities around the state. The wording is staying as it was presented at the last meeting. And it does give, and we're really talking about residential applications, I think, and it gives the senior building official, the building department, a lot of responsibility, but they have that responsibility for other structures in town as well. And we talked about setbacks, so setbacks are gonna be regulated by the underlying zoning in the particular area, which is what we do for other structures on the property. Building height is 20 feet,
I think it was 20, yeah.
Yep, 20 feet for overall height for a freestanding system, a pedestal-mounted system. And I'm not sure what the other questions were. I know that those were the two areas. Visual impacts, we talked about screening as well. And if you look at section 5.22.4.1.6, we do talk that it is up to the senior building inspector to make sure that the applicant demonstrates that the visual impacts are minimized for the surrounding neighbors and the community. And that's concurrent with other similar ordinances in the zoning ordinance.
I also looked at a bunch of other towns to see how they explained what kind of screening they required, and it was really quite general in each of the communities I looked at, so it wasn't like, you must do X, Y, Z.
Awesome. I will bring it to the board. Board, do we have any input on the ordinance? I'll start with Mr. Rugg.
I just have a question. This is in 5.22.4.1.6, visual impacts in A. The last sentence about all electric conduits shall be underground except when the financial costs are prohibitive. And my question is, what is prohibitive? Is it a dollar amount? Is it a percentage of the installation cost? What is it? Who makes the determination?
Is there anything else in your other regulations that gives guidance on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's electric.
Yeah.
It's electrical. It's got to be X number of feet underground. It's got to be in conduit. There's a lot. It's
Like subdivisions, everything is underground or electrical.
But to Arthur's point, why does it say unless it costs too much?
I think that was just language from some other example in another town, perhaps.
Yeah, it's pretty nebulous.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just say all electrical conduits shall be underground, period.
And conform to
Yeah.
Local
conform to,
building code.
Okay, so
Local building code,
Yeah.
shall be underground and conform to,
local building code, or?
okay.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
No. Which, I mean, makes sense. Mr. D?
So I think I looked at your table 5.1 on the newest one.
What page are you on? Oh, it's up early, right?
It's right at the
Page 3?
Yeah,
Yep,
page 3.
Yep.
And it looks like you changed type of solar use residential AR1. It was a P, and now it's a CUP. in the newest version, right?
Good catch. It should be a P.
Should be, okay.
Yeah, that should be permitted by right.
I think it should be a CUP. I was glad for the change.
Yeah, I agree with Tony.
What's the name of this thing so I can read it?
Possible use table?
BDSO, BD.
So when we talk conditional use permits, then we're talking about having to come to the planning board, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Correct.
So for any solar installation that we're asking that people want to put on, including roof mounted or anything like that, this is requiring people to come to the planning board for a conditional use permit. And I think that's just asking too much.
I agree.
I think at least unless
If
the
they
butters know what's going on.
If they come to the planning board, where are they coming with? A thought, idea, or they have to have a fully set of engineered plans? Elevations, I mean, what?
So who is it that's determining if the roof can support the weight of a solar array? Who's doing that on a house that was built in 1970? Who's doing that?
Hopefully the homeowner.
Yes, me.
I would, I could be wrong, but I would assume it would be part of the assessment
Yeah.
of, you know, you have XYZ Solar come out and they say, yeah, you can put a panel on there, or no, you shouldn't put a panel on there, I would think.
Yeah, they,
So-
yeah, they go into the attic, they check out how it's built.
Yeah, so I would agree, there's an assessment, if you will, that's provided by the installer. And I believe that that's included in the building permit submission through the building inspector, code inspector, I don't want to go as far to say that he's verifying it, because I don't know that, but
So if I'm hearing it correctly, the person who's selling the item to one of our citizens is saying, yep, your roof is okay.
I think, though, that maybe the answer to your question is after the fact, where the inspector may have a process once it's installed to ensure that it's adequate. But again, you're getting beyond my knowledge of an inspection process.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting 30 solar panels that are 3 by 5 foot, 3 by 5.5 feet. That's over 400 square feet of weight on top of a roof. And
How much does a panel weigh?
I don't know,
15 pounds, 12 pounds.
yeah. But it's pounds per square foot on a roof, not the total. Anyway, it's just a question that
So my best answer.
I'm trying to figure out who's protecting the homeowners.
Well,
And
probably
I know
their
it's a buyer.
insurance.
I know it's a buyer beware state. I understand that.
It'd be the
but-
building
But
department.
I do think that, and again, I can't speak fully to the level or detail, but
Mhm.
I think I'm in a position to say there's an inspection process that covers your question. It's just a matter of to what degree.
Can I speak on
guess.
that? I had it done in my house, and there is a process. So there is an inspector that goes out and inspects it as part of the
There you go.
building permit that has to be done. They take pictures of rafters and all that to ensure that the roof supports the system they're putting on.
A Londonderry inspector?
No, so the company hires their own inspector, but it is part of the building permit process to show that documentation.
That we have them go out and look
Correct.
at it.
Yep.
There you go.
So even though we didn't have, when you did it, we didn't have this new thing that we're gonna add, the process was, still went through the
Building department, yeah.
code
It
enforcement,
was just,
building
it's
department.
a lot harder
whatever.
here in Londonderry because we don't have a
Yeah.
process to do it in, but it does go through the building department.
So this will make it easier.
Correct.
Oh,
So Mr. Johnson loved our meeting so much that he's still at home watching it.
Mhm.
And he wanted to add that I would assume is the company, XYZ Solar, has to have an engineer sign off on it, saying that the structure will support the weight. And all that documentation is provided to the building department.
got it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have, I think 11 other comments. You want me to continue or let other people?
If you got 20, have at it.
Okay, so, at one point, there's talk about color. And it says silver, white, or something else, but solar panels are black. And so,
Where are you looking?
I don't remember where I was looking for that comment.
52241, is that still in visual? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it was, because my computer won't show me
I think
my.
it's down the mid-area.
Yeah, it's the same visual impacts
Okay.
section that you're on, Tony.
5.22.4.1.6.
The color of the solar collection energy system shall either from the manufacturer or painted with a non-reflective, unobtrusive color that blends with the surrounding environment. Approved colors include but are not limited to white, off-white, or gray. Is that what you're asking, Mr. D?
Yes. But based on what I've seen, the face is black and the frame is black. The frame around, because it's all little individual squares that make the rectangle, as I understand it. And everything's black. So I don't know what this color thing is about on the
Yeah.
5.1 dot whatever.
So should we just add black?
I'm
as well,
asking,
or-
I don't know.
Yeah, we should.
Okay.
That should be the first choice.
Should blend in with the roof or
That should be the first choice.
If black is the standard.
So I
stock
guess it should
color.
be the color of the solar collection energy system shall be an unobtrusive color that blends with the surrounding environment. Would that,
I think that's better, actually, because we say approved colors include but are not limited to, so we don't have a list of approved colors anywhere.
And if you think
would
about it,
that
like someone's,
satisfy what you're asking is almost to simplify it and just the color of the solar collection energy system shall be an unobtrusive color that blends with the surrounding environment. Is that
yeah,
fair?
because if you think about it, if you've got like a green roof, right? And let's say in a couple of years they have ones
Green
that can
solar
blend in
panels?
with a green,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, we're limiting ourselves.
So just strike the last line?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so just for one more,
I think I've got it up.
You got it?
Up there,
All right.
I think.
Oh,
Are all arrays
Kelly,
black?
look at you go.
Come on,
Real
It's
time.
okay as long as.
still early, I mean, come on.
Mr.
Yeah,
D.
we gotta slow this down. It's only 9:30.
I only have a
Bring it out
7:30 a.m.
I'll talk slower,
Hurry up, would ya?
because I don't have kids at home.
Wait a second now. Are all arrays the actual glass black?
I don't really know,
Is
to
that
be
what,
honest.
the
with you.
only
I don't
color
know if
they
I'd
come
call
I
in?
feel
Well,
like
it's gotta, I mean, it's gotta collect the
Today,
sun.
they're all
so-
dark. There are
So
more.
the frame should match whatever color the
There are new
black is?
technologies coming out, but
I wouldn't advise putting a color
Yeah.
on it.
No.
Because what is black?
yeah.
Is it, and what is red, for
Absence of
example?
color.
Should we get into brick colors?
Actually, black is all.
Threaten
the
me with a
colors.
good time.
Black all color and white's the
Black is all the
absence of
colors.
I don't
White
know.
is the absence
Right.
of color.
I just make shit up.
color. Say it with conviction.
Yeah, I have no idea. It sounded official, didn't it?
All right, Mr. D,
I
next
was a phys
one.
ed teacher. I don't. In elementary school, I only got the 8 crayon thing, so I only know primary colors.
You've got like 9 more things, right?
More than that. So, in our current regulations, I'm gonna talk now strictly about pole-mounted and ground-mounted, because those are the ones that I personally have an issue with. And you saw the photos last time that we were here. Some people say they're okay, it's no problem. Other people find them ugly, whatever. But I think it's important that anything new that we do is consistent with other regulations that we have. Okay, so if we want to talk about a pole mounted, we need to think about it's in the air, there's stuff in the air and it's heavy. In other parts of our zoning ordinances, we have drop zones. So that if, in the event of a calamity, it falls over only onto the land of the owner, not onto someone else's land. And I think that needs to be covered somewhere in this, because could it fall over? Yes. Is there a chance it would fall over? Probably not. But that could also be true of cell towers and and TV towers and whatever else it is, and we have that in our regulations now. And so I think that that's something that we should consider,
It's a good idea.
making
I
it
think that- I
making
think
a
that
drop
makes sense.
zone.
You
Because
don't
if
want to put your neighbor's property
Yeah, I
at
mean-
risk because you, yeah.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense. I feel like it makes sense to
Well, does it
reasonably
have a
prudent.
setback?
So what,
It does.
Yeah.
It has the setback, but if you have a 20-foot tall building and you only have a 15-foot setback, you've got
Okay.
5 of it on that side.
I think it sounds like it makes sense to me. Does anybody have an objection to it?
no,
I don't even think we have a pole-mounted reference in here, so that's a deficiency
Yeah, you do.
you just brought up, so,
You
you
do.
do?
It's in there.
okay.
Well,
Well,
it's
there's no,
under, I
there's
think it's under
no,
ground mounting or,
It's right here. I have it up.
sorry, oh, it's up there. Ground or pole mounted solar energy collection system shall not exceed height restrictions for the zoning district in which they are placed when oriented at maximum tilt. While you're there, that's another comment that I had. What's tilt? And shouldn't that be maximum vertical?
Straight up and down.
Straight up and down, maximum, because to me, tilt
Tilt
is this way, which is horizontal. But
well,
ma-
it may be engineered not to go vertical. I don't know the answer.
But maximum vertical could be like that.
Yeah.
Maximum horizontal would be that.
What about just maximum height?
Maximum
Well,
height.
remember, the reason why I think the reason why that's there, and it probably came from another towns, is because they move. They change with the angle of the sun depending on the time of year, because sometimes the sun is high, sometimes the sun is low. So that angle changes all the time, and then they also pivot.
Right, but it's the height is always going, the maximum height's always gonna be.
20
So
feet.
if it's at like,
If it's at
if
maximum
it's at 90
vertical,
degrees, that's gonna be the maximum height, which it's never gonna be because the sun's never directly that way.
Is it 20 feet at maximum
maximum
height,
vertical.
or is
No,
it 20
maximum
feet
tilt.
of pole?
No, the
Plus.
top of the array,
Okay, so it's not 20 feet of pole plus array.
top of the
So
array.
it's the highest point on the array.
Yeah, and the array doesn't necessarily go completely vertical.
Right,
There's
but,
no need for it to go completely vertical.
but the highest vertical. We want to measure it from the highest vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're skiing, you might have a vertical. The biggest vertical's like this on the mountain, right? It's not straight up
It
and
doesn't
down.
have to be, it doesn't have to be 90 degrees straight up and down. It doesn't have to be. But it's gonna go this way and it's gonna go that way, and the measurement of the 20 feet is gonna be from the highest point it could possibly be on vertical,
Yeah,
right?
that's fair. Anybody have an
Instead of-
objection?
Instead of, whatever the word, instead of maximum tilt.
So give me
So-
one more time.
Just change tilt to vertical.
Okay.
Maximum tilt sounds like a cool ride at Canopy.
All right, so,
Corkscrew.
are
It's the
we
Turkish
just
twist.
writing things down, or you want me to keep going, or do you wanna deal with the
going.
the fall zone?
I'm working on the fall zone right now.
So do you want me to keep going, or do you wanna work?
Up to you. It's
finish
your
it?
discussion.
I would say continue on.
Okay.
Yep.
So, we have in a commercial district, we allow a commercial sign. The maximum height in a commercial district can be 10 feet.
The sign
The
itself.
the sign itself can only be 10 feet off the ground, the top of the sign. But in an AR1 district, a neighborhood where houses are side by side, we're gonna allow something that's 20 feet tall in a residential zone. And it's not just a 32-foot sign, 4x8 sheet of plywood, 32. We're talking about 20 or so solar panels that on average are 3 feet by 5.5 foot rectangles. And to power a house, you need, Lynn, 20 of them, depending on the size of the house. If you do an air conditioning and I think if you use 20, I think it's a pretty good average. Some have 30, some have 15. So let's use 20, right? So 20 times 15 quick? Londonderry High School graduate?
You've heard it from me before.
300.
We're allowing a 300 square foot sign 20 feet in the air, and in a commercial zone, we're allowing
32
32 square feet, 10 feet high. That makes sense.
I don't see how you can compare a sign, a sign to a solar array. I mean,
I'd rather have a sign next to my house. I'd rather have my neighbor put a sign up. It's huge.
But a sign has a completely different purpose.
What's the rationale with the 20 feet? I guess that's, has me perplexed right now.
The 20 feet height?
Yeah, 20 feet height,
That would
why
be
20, not
aesthetics.
15 or 10?
So it would be,
I think if it's 10, it wouldn't work.
yeah.
Yeah, if
I
it's
think if it
10,
was
the
10
trees are gonna block it.
Yeah,
If it's 10, you might as well just have a ground mount. 'Cause
Yeah.
It wouldn't have the
for them to
opportunity.
do anything.
Because you need so many. And I would also say that in order to power an entire house, if your house is facing the wrong way, so you can't put roof panels on, then you're talking about probably 2 of these pole-mounted ones, because they don't hold that many based on my limited research, and I'm not an expert. I've spent a week, and I had the time to try and learn as much as I could quickly, and what I saw was really scary. Okay? So while we're talking about it, we also have portable storage structures that I was involved in for, I don't know, 3 to 5 years to finally get it into the ordinances.
Yeah, that was another ordeal we had.
It was really fun. Those are only allowed to be 10 feet high, and they're limited to the sides of the house or the backyard, but then again, only by special exception.
Yeah, but I think I mean, we're comparing apples and oranges here.
Yeah.
Like the you know, a storage unit can be 10 feet high and 20 feet, 40 feet long, right? Solar panels simply can't be, you know, and so I think by saying, you know, we only allow this here and, you know, this type of thing here and this type of thing here, you've also got to take a look at why we're doing this and what the use of it is. And so we've got to make it so that these are usable
100%.
features.
100%.
And we can't be like, well, you know, we only allow a storage unit to be 10 feet tall, so we can only make this, you know.
Remember, one of my mantras always has been since day one, and this is my 3rd go around on this board. We'll see how long it lasts this time. I think one of our jobs is to protect neighbors from each other. While I would not put a solar array in my front yard that's 30 feet by 20 feet, somebody would, right? Somebody would put up a pole-mounted solar array in their backyard that totally blocked the next-door neighbor's pool and screwed up their whole life. Their $100,000 investment that they had the pool in a sunny spot. Some people would put one on the other side of their lot where somebody that had a truck garden that was a subsistence garden, they're living on it, give or take, and they're canning for the winter and whatever, and it's gonna block the sun from their plants growing. So there's a lot of things to think about when you do this. If they're on the roof, have at it. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Do what you gotta do. That technology is coming along. Unbelievable, all the changes, and the stuff that I found was enough so it almost talked me into doing it for my house, because the ones I saw now, they don't even look like solar panels, they look like shingles. It's amazing stuff, the newest technology, but it's not there for these pole-mounted ones or the ground-mounted ones. And that's why we went back and forth about, I said 5 acres, you said 3 acres, I said, I can live with 3 acres. Yeah. But I would also say, I want to limit them and say, yeah, you can't put it in your front yard. You just can't. It's just not right.
I would agree with that.
The
I think
reality
that's
is,
feasible.
eventually, these pole-mounted ones are gonna look like the satellite dishes of the 80s. Everyone's gonna have it on top of something, or everything else, they're not.
Satellite dish is easier to take down.
You see those in yards sometimes.
There's one on Windsor Boulevard right
It's
now.
usually like a dead bird. In the
Yeah.
front of it or something.
It's all ratty-tatty and falling apart, which was why I was very pleased to see in this ordinance, the one about the decommissioning part, if it hasn't worked for 12 months. I was very happy to see that, because I drive by one every day, and there's wood hanging off of it, and metal sticking out, somebody's gonna poke an eye out eventually, and it's about 15 feet tall. Anyway.
So, the discussion, I think we've seen ordinances in other towns where these ground-mounted systems are not allowed in front yards.
I'd have to review that, but it didn't stick out to me.
Yeah,
anywhere, but
okay, but I don't think
You might have
that's
done more research
necessarily
before.
an unreasonable thing to
Yeah.
add.
And I almost wonder, I agree, I don't think it is an unnecessary or unreasonable ask to say, hey, this needs to be in your backyard, or not in your front yard, I should say.
Yeah.
We allow sheds in the front yard now with when they go through the, to get a waiver or.
Not 20 feet
Sheds or
tall.
garages.
Yeah, go to ZBA.
Yeah. What I was
Which is what I said the first meeting. I said, well, make them all go to ZBA.
Yeah.
If you want a pole-mounted one, and have them deal with it.
What I am wondering,
They're usually pretty busy, so.
what I am wondering is, we had discussed a minimum acreage. Is it more appropriate to, instead of a minimum acreage, it be this whole, okay, it can't be in your front yard, and the shadowing of this device cannot leave your property? Is that
I think that's reasonable as well.
fair?
Is that what the fallout zone
I
is?
really
up
like
there?
that.
We have that.
I think from a phraseology standpoint, I think that nails it.
Yeah, is
We have
is
that.
it fair to say that, as opposed to an acreage minimum?
We have that for the, for the wind turbine ordinance, that you can't have the shadow going onto a neighbor's.
That's what she typed up there, right, with the fall zone? That's what I'm reading, right?
Yeah.
I
Well,
thought the fall zone was like where.
The fall zone could theoretically be different than
The shadow.
the shadow itself, yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. It can't fall on someone else's, if it
Yeah,
falls.
yeah.
Oh, no, the
It can't
shadow's-
fall on someone
It
else's
needs to
land.
fall on your
Shadow's gonna be
property.
longer than the fall.
Yeah, that was what I was getting at, is
Oh,
though
I
it may
see.
be a
I
20-foot
get it.
structure, it could be a 50-foot shadow.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Especially like in winter where the
Sun's
sun's
low.
low.
Yeah.
How are you gonna enforce that?
It's not our problem.
Hello?
We don't do that.
I think
We
we
don't
have-
get involved in that
Second
part.
floor,
Yeah, well, that's
building
why I'm
department.
here.
Second
Big
floor, building
flashlights.
department, his name is
What do
Glenn.
we,
I think that's easily, Kelly, I think that's easily enforceable, really.
So
The
that-
shadow,
I'm-
you just go out there on a sunny day.
One neighbor's gonna complain. It's just like all of our zoning ordinances. Nothing gets enforced until the neighbor complains.
I'm sure,
over
I'm
time to
sure
sit out
these
there.
what if
companies
someone
have
puts
something.
an addition on their house and it's casting a bigger shadow on the neighbor?
Yeah,
How
or
are
they
we
could have a
dis-
tree, an elm tree, and it grows up and it's, the leaves block the sun. I mean,
Our assistant town manager has a valid point.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting into some weeds here. I'm just a little bit,
You've been in weeds all night,
Weeds
Kelly.
grow.
yeah, no.
Yeah,
But
we've
I
been in
did
weeds
write
all
up a
night.
nice fall zone proposal if you want to take a look at it.
Yeah.
Here, Tony, let me make it bigger for you.
Show me the height of the system, this big.
So this is consistent with what we would apply in a cell tower example.
Perfect.
I love it.
Any ground mounted or
And
full
do I have
mounted?
it straight? Is it, should I have said, should I have said, sorry, pole?
Pole mounted.
And what I was saying earlier was that we don't have a definition for pole mounted. We have one for roof, ground, but none for pole. So I'll have to add.
There's nothing in the ground mounted, that talks to it. Pole or pedestal.
I thought there was a pedestal.
I think
It
there
says
wa-
a solar energy collection system and associated mounting hardware that is affixed to or placed upon the ground including but not limited to fixed, passive, or active tracking racking systems. So, wrong word there, but I don't see it mentioned. Oh, yeah.
Oh, go back. The residential solar.
Yeah.
So then I guess I come back to the question, does it matter? If it doesn't matter for, you know, if it's ground mounted, doesn't matter how
It
it's
can be on a
mounted.
pole or a rack.
Yeah,
The
doesn't
rule
matter.
remains the same.
Yep.
If the
can't
rack
be any
falls
higher.
over, it can't fall on anyone else's land.
Yep.
And if the rack mount is creating a shadow on someone else's land, I think you're right. I think it's the same concept.
So I need to change this then,
Right.
yeah,
I mean, if you
To-
want it, yeah.
Ground mounted.
to ground.
Yep. Then we're consistent too.
Pole-mounted object is a ground-mounted object, so.
Okay.
Poles
That
mounted to the
said, though,
ground.
just to take away anyone else's interpretation, if you go back to definitions, you could add, where it says ground mount.
You could add pole.
add pole to it, and then that takes care of the problem. Right? Where are you? Under the, canopy,
So the residential.
Ground
So
mount.
oh,
Placed
okay.
upon the ground or on a pole?
And associated mounting hardware, a pole would be mounting hardware.
Okay,
There we go.
great.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, so now we have the definition. So someone says ground mount, it's not ground mount, it's on a pole. 522227 says pole.
Perfect. Where did we land with the whole don't cast your shadow on my yard thing?
I think that
She doesn't
Kelly
wanna
had
deal with that.
verbiage there that was,
You're killing me with the
I'm
Do-
just asking where we ended with it, because everybody was
So
going like
we
this.
ended with it saying we weren't going to add it because
Okay.
someone could build a garage or a shed or
Yeah.
something
It's
like
6
that.
more weeks of winter.
Yeah,
Put up a
what's the
flagpole.
groundhog say? That's where I'm at. I'm
well,
sorry.
usually
Matt.
what
I
happens.
just wanted to-
neighbors
I just
end up
wanted to
in
know where
a
we left
dispute,
off.
And then they call the town.
Where did we
council.
end up about where in the lot they can put it? Did we say we're not doing the
Cannot be in
front?
the front yard. We did agree that it cannot be
So
in
where
the
do I
front
have to,
Where's that go?
And there's a residential section, right?
Residential section, that's correct.
Excuse me.
52233.
location?
Do we want to say front or side yard? Depending on the acreage, I think they get tied up with the fall zone anyway on a side yard.
Yeah, and I mean, the side yard might be the only place that it really fits, if you've got the acreage, you know.
So is this where are we in agreement, this is the appropriate section?
Yes,
Yep.
Yeah.
location. Arrays may not be located on the front of the home.
Am I adding to this or a new bullet?
I feel like it's a new bullet.
No, it's
No, it's C, yeah.
location.
Yeah.
Location, dimension, and type.
Or you could put it in C, the system layout.
Yeah.
All
Includes the location of proposed solar energy collection system, foundations, associated equipment. The system shall not be in the front yard of the residence. Then somebody has to ask, well, what is the front yard?
To be mounted behind the front line across the house.
So located,
That's just how the
located beyond the
storage
front,
thing is,
the front,
the illustration.
what do you call that? The front pane of the,
Well, so here's,
Facade.
you have to think about what you're trying to solve. So if a house like, there's there's quite a few houses that sit sideways, gable end, on the street. So if you say the front of the house, they say, okay, and they're gonna put it on the street side.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to accomplish is not have it visible from the street. That's really what you're trying to do with the front yard one, I think,
Yeah.
right? So,
Could have it on your side yard.
Yeah, the
It
only,
could be visible.
the only
What about
question I
just-
have with yours, if you have a corner lot, what do you do too? right?
What about just saying it can't be between the closest side of a house and the house? I mean, in the street.
In the road.
Yeah.
It can't be between.
Yeah, so
the-
whatever the closest side of the house
It
is
can't
to
be
the street.
between the
to Lee's
road.
point, what do you do about a corner lot?
Tony,
Feel
you-
bad
Gets
for the
sold.
guy.
You referenced portable storage, right? Tony?
Yeah, yes,
So can we just pull that language? Because we don't permit those in the,
the structure shall be located to the side or rear of the principal structure on the property.
thank you.
Look at that.
That works.
I just happen to have it out.
I figured you would.
All right, now that was only 7 questions, so that means you still have 4 more.
Did we resolve the, table question about CUP or P?
No, I don't think we did.
So my position is that it should be permitted by right in an AR1, residential solar.
I agree.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So no
There we go.
CUP, P.
Yeah, I think it's probably most practical.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We don't allow an 8-foot fence on a side yard. Mr. Cruz can tell us all about that. And we're gonna allow a 30-foot solar array.
20.
20. It's unbelievable. But that's okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. Why did all my notes, oh, there it is.
That 8-foot fence would help hide it a bit.
Maybe it should be an 8-foot fence around all the.
It's actually a
revenue
6-foot fence,
installations.
but I'm not gonna get started on that topic.
Okay, I think, just flipping through to make sure I didn't miss any. There was several of them that we answered them before I got to it, so I believe, Mr. Chair, I'm all set.
Anything else from the
So,
board?
thank you all for your patience.
Thank you for your
I
comments.
don't need brought up great points.
Yeah, I think we made some accomplishments.
We got an hour to go, come on, somebody say something.
But hey, we have the chance to always amend it too.
All
Kelly's
right.
about had it with me tonight.
So you're,
Anything else from the board?
I have one thing.
I thought you said you were
are you
done.
recommending this to the council? That's the next step.
As changed?
As amended?
As amended,
as
I've got all the red lines up here. Well,
So,
Before we vote, do you want me to vote on it?
yeah,
Okay.
I would like you to vote on it.
You're the
Is there,
architect, Lynn.
That's why I say, do you
Well,
want me to?
You're the expert
I
here.
think the most important thing, Lynn, is that when it goes to council, that you're there.
I will be there.
Please, to answer the questions and help them understand what it was we did and how we did it and why we did it.
Yep.
I think that would be critical.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Mr. Rugg.
I will make a motion, Mr.
Nope.
Chair.
Oh, go ahead. To send this to
I'll
the-
make a motion that we make a recommendation to the town council, an amendment to the Londonderry zoning ordinance relating to solar energy collection systems. And this is part of a new proposed section 5.22 of the zoning ordinance. And I'll wait for a second.
I have a motion from Mr. Rugg. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Knight. All in favor, starting with Ann, please.
Ann Champa, nay.
Tony D, aye.
Lynn Wiles, aye?
Arthur Rugg, aye.
Jason Knight's aye.
Sean Faber abstain.
John Cruz, aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. This ordinance has been recommended to the council.
Perfect. I have one question. Why is R3 a CUP? Why is I'm looking at that's the new chart. Why is R3 a CUP?
It would be residential use, so you're gonna put a residential system in a R3 zone.
Oh,
Our three, residential system, connotates a small system.
Got it. Got it. Okay, thank you. And before we adjourn, I do have one thing.
Before you have one thing, I would like to say thank you, Lynn, very much for the work you've put into this. Ms. Farr, thank you very much for the amount of work you've put into this.
Thank
Kelly,
you.
thank you very much for the work you've put into this. All right, Mr. D, the floor, sir.
So, there has been in social media, several local papers, and in other meetings, there's been a lot of talk and rumblings about impact fees. My question is, does that conversation start here, or is it strictly a town council function? Kelly?
I think it should, sorry, I was saving that. I believe it should start here. I think that the planning board should be providing input to the council on this, on impact fees. Yes, the council has made it clear that it's and Councilor Faber can chime in if I'm off base here, but it's one of the items that the council has cited as an item they want to address, so.
I don't know exactly if all of the council has said that, so I think there's some that have, some that haven't really stated anything on it, so I don't know that it hit a consensus yet that we want to do something on it.
Yeah, and so to
He
that
used the
point,
big C word, yeah.
What's that?
He used the big C word. I would want to, as one person, I would want to act in a motion that the council would be supporting. I don't want to propose something that maybe the council is necessarily wouldn't support. Then we have spent a lot of staff time and resources on something that would get to where it needs to go just to say no. So much like the PUD, I would want a consensus from the council as to what the council's expectation is. From there, I'd be more than happy to work on
That makes sense.
on it if there is anything that the council would
Yeah,
like to
that,
work
I guess that's, when you ask where should it start, it's kind of,
It starts at the board, but I would want
Yeah.
the.
It starts there and goes backwards and then goes
yeah,
back.
just
back to the
their
beginning.
meeting from a consensus standpoint, so that we're not spending time that is on something that's not gonna go anywhere, because ultimately they have the say.
And how do you even do that? Now, in Lynn's case, with this item that we just pushed forward, it came out of Utilities Committee, correct?
Yep. Ad
So,
hoc of the
so you
council.
had a basis and whatever. How would we even start that conversation?
For
Is
impact
there like a
fees?
subcommittee, or is it work that the staff does and then presents to this board?
Start the conversation here about impact fees?
Yeah, if it's, let's run it out. The council has a consensus and says to the planning board, we want you to look into it. Or
Yep.
we want a recommendation from you.
Yep.
What happens then? Next.
So I would prepare, a summary document and give you a presentation overview about procedurally what that means. And then ultimately with impact fees, we would need to put out a request to understand the cost of a study to then come to a conclusion about what those fees should or shouldn't be. So that you have a base point for what fees you're actually adopting. But first, we should have a discussion about the procedural process and a general discussion about what fees you want to, or you think are appropriate to apply. So you could have anything from traffic, rec, school, police, fire. Do you want all of those? Does the planning board view all of those topics or
Stop signs?
as fees you would like to see included if we were to do an analysis to try and capture what
Traffic
those.
calming measures?
Yeah, so it would kind of be a more general
Okay.
discussion to get a consensus from you all to
Okay.
then bring to the council, but I mean, that's how I think it should go, but
Great.
It probably would be good for the board to review RSA 674:21, because it details on how to do it in
The
there.
Rain Man is in the house. He does it every
The
time.
state tells us everything, As soon as
does it
you're
every
gonna tell us
time.
more.
So is there a consensus here amongst
From the
this
board to ask
To
for
get
a
a consensus?
consensus?
Yeah.
A consensus for a consensus?
I mean, do we want to, I mean, there is some noise, I just want to figure out what, because people are going to be screaming, again, the planning board doesn't do anything.
I think we can discuss it,
Yeah.
and I think we can come back to you. I mean, it's, you know, we've been in communication with the planning board too as well. So it's, just because one counselor mentions it at a meeting doesn't mean necessarily we need to do something. Just because one counselor gets a couple people to say things in public comment doesn't necessarily mean the public's screaming for it either.
Understood.
There's a lot of meta things to this in a bigger picture that I think we've got to discuss. But since this came up, I'll make sure that we, at least at some level, have some kind of conversation about it.
Sure, and I would add to that to help them understand that it's gonna cost money to make money.
Yes. And that's part of this too, and I'm glad this discussion is going this way, because you just don't go, I want this, the next meeting we vote on it, and there it is. We've got to come up with a proper way to do things, and we didn't do things the proper way before in this town, and that got us into a lot of trouble. So if we go down this road, I want to make sure it's the right way for the right things, for the right reasons, and has the expected impact, because that's half of it too. There's people that think this is a magic bullet that's going to solve all these problems. Not necessarily. And so we've got to look at what's the intent, as Kelly said, and why do we, you know, what are we going to get out of it, and make sure we achieve those.
So what are you trying to solve?
Yeah,
What are
instead
you
of just
trying to
making
fix?
false promises or it's a panacea. I get really nervous every time someone thinks it's going to be a silver bullet for everything in the town.
It's actually very complex.
Yes.
And the problem the town got into was in the application of it. It just was not done properly.
Well, and some of the people who are talking about impact fees are, well, we shouldn't build another thing in town, but we should have impact fees. Well, impact fees happen on new things in town. So these two things don't go together.
Yeah, but there's got to be a discussion of it anyway,
Yes.
just to, you know, see what we really want and what it can really do.
Yeah, we got 51 minutes left, we can beat
Nope.
this to death if you want.
Thank you, Mr. Faber, I appreciate it, sir.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Or I can't do that, somebody else.
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, folks.
Yes.